Uno, dos, piso, testing para webcast. Kike, confírmame.
Estamos todavía nada.
Para webcast. 1, 2, 1, 2. Todavía nada. 1, 2, 3. Piso para webcast.
Tengo piso, sí señor.
¿Tienes piso? Perfecto. Vamos entonces con los idiomas. Voy a pasar a la cabina.
The effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the region of the Americas extend far beyond the lives lost to the disease. The care needs of most people in the region living with mental health and substance abuse conditions have remained unmet, especially those living in conditions of vulnerability, including historically discriminated populations such as Indigenous and Afro-descendant communities. PAHO's High-Level Commission on Mental Health and COVID-19 developed the new agenda for mental health in the Americas with 10 recommendations and strategy actions that are crafted for incorporation into countries' post-pandemic recovery strategies. 1. Elevate mental health at the national and supranational levels. Establish mental health as a national development priority, including mental health in universal health coverage, and develop strategic partnerships and alliances to
States, Secretary General, the Assistant Secretary General, and the heads of delegation of permanent observers. This dialogue convenes within the framework of the 55th regular session of the General Assembly of the OAS here in Antigua and Barbuda. And it's a privilege for the people of Antigua and Barbuda, along with the government of Antigua and Barbuda, to host you in our country. It is a special honor for me to chair this very vital exchange on deep incorporation between the OAS member states and permanent observers. I extend sincere appreciation to the representatives of over 31 observer countries who have journeyed here in person, underscoring the very high value you place on the partnership with the OAS and the respect you show for my country, Antigua and Barbuda, and our role in advancing the interests of peace and prosperity globally. We are grateful that all delegations that submitted written statements addressing this General Assembly's theme. These contributions will be distributed to member states and will serve to enrich the depth of our deliberations. This dialogue is convened under the OAS General Assembly Resolution AG/CG/Doc.4 in recognition of the critical importance of sustained substantive engagement with permanent observers. We believe that this ongoing exchange strengthens our collective capacity to confront complex global challenges and transform routine discussions into meaningful, forward-looking collaboration. Permanent observers have played a very vital role in advancing the OAS's 4 pillars, that is, democracy, human rights, security, and integral development. And we count on your continued partnership to sustain and elevate these efforts. In this spirit, I call upon you to remain fully engaged and to support our shared ambition embodied in this year's theme, Building Resilient, Inclusive Economies in the Americas. Antigua and Barbuda propose this theme as a collective aspiration for every member state and observer state, recognizing that true resilience and inclusion demand concerted action across the hemisphere. Promoting climate resilience, food security, sustainable energy transitions, and environmental stewardship are especially urgent for small island development states in the Caribbean. But we believe that it is also shared hemispheric and global responsibility. I affirm our deep gratitude for the solidarity of observer states with the OAS and membership, and express confidence that through constructive dialogue and concrete cooperation, we will meet the presiding and pressing needs of our time and forge a stronger inter-American global system for generations to come. Colleagues, I am now pleased to give the floor to His Excellency Albert Ramdin for the first statement he will make to this joint meeting in his capacity as Secretary General of the OAS. Mr. Secretary General, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Minister Chad Green, heads of delegations of member states and permanent observers, ladies and gentlemen. Wish you a great day, and I would like to begin by thanking the government and the people of Antigua and Barbuda for their steadfast support to the Organization of American States, to Inter-Americanism. We are especially appreciative, Minister, for your commitment to fostering dialogue not only among OAS member states, but also with partners from beyond the hemisphere. I also commend the government of Antigua and Barbuda for the thoughtful selection, the important theme which has been presented, building resilient, inclusive economies in the Americas. This theme resonates not only within our region, but also with and aligned with global priorities. It addresses the urgent need to strengthen economic resilience in response to ongoing geopolitical, social, environmental, and economic challenges. So in a world undergoing profound transformation, marked by mounting systemic risks and complex crises, the need for stronger multilateral cooperation has never been more urgent. This is an essential role that the institutions of the Inter-American system have been playing since its creation. Our collective action is not just a principle, it is a necessity for peace, for sustainable development, and for the overall well-being of our peoples. As the Chair mentioned, permanent observers have been long valued members and partners in advancing democracy, human rights, security, and sustainable development within the Americas and the Caribbean. Several observer states present here today are showing their leadership, helping to shape the global agenda and push for solutions to tackle current challenges. The world is becoming a smaller place, so we need to work together. We welcome our permanent observers to deepen collaboration with the Organization of American States, especially in climate, environmentally impactful events, climate resilience, and the blue economy. This commitment is particularly critical for the Caribbean, where ocean sustainability is directly tied to economic survival and human security. We commend the outcomes of the 4th International Conference on Small Island Developing States, held last year here in Antigua and Barbuda, in the same premises. The endorsement of the Multi-Dimensional Vulnerability Index marks a major step forward to address challenges faced by 6 countries. We also deeply appreciate the observers who play an active role in supporting our initiatives, especially our electoral observation missions, our peace missions, to support the essential work of the Inter-American Committee on Human Rights, the Inter-American Commission, rather, on Human Rights, to our multidimensional security projects and cooperation, as I mentioned, on climate-related matters. Your Excellencies, the challenges we face today, climate crisis foremost, insecurity, economic volatility and inequality, governance crisis, and challenging global political matters are simply too large for any one nation or region to tackle alone. They demand sustained, principled cooperation across borders. In our own region, we continue to affirm that representative democracy is the foundation of freedom, of justice, and human dignity. We recognize democracy not only as a political system, but as the catalyst for sustainable development and human progress. But we have too often fallen short of our collective aspirations, and we must do more to bring economic opportunities and resilience in our region for democracy to deliver the expected benefits. So allow me to conclude with a solemn appeal to the ongoing security, humanitarian, and political crisis in general in the Americas, in the world, but especially a specific request with regard to our sister nation, Haiti. Haiti demands our urgent and united response. Our region is uniquely positioned to contribute to Haiti's stabilization, institutional development, and political dialogue. We call on our partners, especially to the permanent observers present here today, to join us in mobilizing coordinated support and maintaining sustained diplomatic engagement with the Republic of Haiti. This, in our view, is not only a moral obligation, in our view, but also a shared responsibilities. Haiti's path to peace and recovery will depend on our collective action and enduring solidarity. Finally, I want to share with you and invite you to a meeting which will be held before the end of the year, most likely in November coming, which will be convened in the OAS headquarters, a special meeting specifically meant for permanent observers to be informed about the projects for which funding will be required in our new 2026 budget. And I look forward to your interest and commitment to support some of these initiatives. I count on your continued support to uphold the relevance of the OAS and to advance our common goals for peace, security, and prosperity. Therefore, may this General Assembly be an opportunity to strengthen ties between the OAS, member states, and our permanent observers. Mr. Chairman, I thank you.
Thank you very much, SG. Excellencies, before we begin our exchange, I would like to ensure that all participants who wish to speak have an equal opportunity to do so. In that spirit, I ask that each intervention be strictly restricted or limited to a maximum of 4 minutes. I repeat, that each intervention be limited to a maximum of 4 minutes. In that way, we'll certainly get through this afternoon's proceedings. To begin the dialogue, we will proceed to the first round of interventions, by the heads of delegation of permanent observers. We will begin with the 4 permanent observers with designated missions at the OAS, namely Spain, Italy, France, and the Holy See. Without any further announcements, the order of presentations will be Spain, Italy, France, and the Holy See. We begin with Spain.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Foreign Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Excellent Chet Greene, Secretary General Albert Ramdeen, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for honoring Spain to allow us to begin at this meeting, thanking you for the warm welcome of the government of Antigua and Barbuda, and especially greeting Secretary General Albert Ramdeen at his first General Assembly of the OAS, which is being celebrated in an island in the Caribbean. And you know that you can count on Spain as an observer country to strengthen this organization. Our dialogue today is taking place in the Americas, that is in peace, but where we have a great deal of uncertainty and convulsions throughout the world. We condemn the attacks on Ukraine, but we are worried about the Middle East. Spain has appealed that there be respect for international law, a de-escalation of violence, and use of multilateralism. That is why we are here today, because we believe in a multilateral system that is rules-based, because we are convinced that forums like these, the OAS, are used to respond to the challenges we all face. That is why in Sevilla next week we have the 4th International Conference for Financing of Development. This is an essential meeting to build a new international financial architecture. The countries of the Caribbean and Latin America, many times trapped in middle income, have lots to offer. I'd like to thank the Secretary General. I'm glad he will be there with us in Spain. And I also thank the ministers of the region who are going to also participate in this meeting. We believe in the efficacy of multilateralism. We have taken on the Ibero-American presidency, pro-temp presidency, and we offer the region of the Caribbean to please participate because we believe in multilateralism, and for this reason, Spain has been working for half a century with this organization. We have shown that we are a trustworthy partner and an important external donor. We have a financial commitment, but above all, we have a political commitment to the aims and values of this organization. Throughout 2 decades, more than $70 million that Spain's cooperation have provided, they have gone to support the pillars of this organization, the building of peace in Colombia or in the adjacent zone in Belize and Guatemala, the support of electoral observation missions, working with countries whose institutional democracies is being undermined, like in Guatemala, and the full exercise of human rights. We support wholeheartedly these wonderful institutions created based on a sophisticated system of human rights, which is more needed than ever today. More needed than ever to ensure the survival of the rule of law and to fight against inequalities, especially against the most important, which is gender inequality, which we are fighting in Spain and in other countries, thanks to our feminist foreign policy. We are here to support the IACHR. We value the IACHR. And we will be devoting also time to the concerning situation in Haiti. We are committed to Haiti. We have supported the multinational support mission, but that is not enough. We must put an end to illicit trafficking. And so we welcome the fact that the OAS and the Secretary General assume this challenge as a priority in the region. And finally, you are going to analyze a resolution about the Spanish language in order to show the value of this language. We would like to thank the OAS to their efforts to ensure this. Secretary General, ministers, we are convinced that in this new stage, working together, we can continue to strengthen multilateralism and the values we share. And we are looking forward to the meeting in November, and you can count on Spain's constructive participation. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, Signor Ministro, President of the General Assembly, Your Excellency, Secretary General of the OAS, Your Excellencies, Head of Delegation, distinguished delegators, and dear friends. It's a great honor to address you today as head of the Italian delegation. Allow me to first express our deep appreciation to the government of Antigua and Barbuda for its warm hospitality and commendable organization of this General Assembly. Italy is proud to have been an observer and partner of the OAS since 1972. Our long-standing ties with the Americas continue to grow stronger, particularly in light of the complex challenges we face globally. The alarming escalation of tensions in the Middle East and its potential regional and international repercussions is a stark reminder of our shared responsibility. Now, more than ever, the international community must stand united in upholding diplomacy and preventing the outbreak of a wider conflict that could endanger global peace and stability. Closer to home, we remain gravely concerned by the multidimensional crisis in Haiti. Combating armed gangs, securing the territory, addressing urgent humanitarian needs, and ensuring general election by February 2026 are key priorities for the Haitian transitional government. The international community must remain committed to helping Haiti break the cycle of violence and instability and move toward a future of peace and development. In keeping with our commitment to the region, Italy will host the 12th Italy Latin American and Caribbean Conference in October the 7th in Rome. This will be a valuable opportunity to deepen our strategic dialogue, explore new avenues for economic cooperation, and strengthen the bonds that unite us. We fully endorse the theme of this General Assembly, building resilient and inclusive economies in the Americas, which reflects the vision of Secretary General Albert Ramdin. I take this opportunity to wish him every success in his mandate. Our economies are more interconnected than ever. Today's global environment resilience is not a luxury, it's a necessity. As the Secretary General rightly emphasized, involving the private sector and engaging all segments of societies is essential to achieving inclusive and lasting growth. This vision is at the heart of what we call in Italy diplomazia della crescita, diplomacy for growth. It's a two-way street using foreign policy to promote shared prosperity through investment, trade, connectivity, and stronger supply chains. Italian companies, already well established in the region, stand ready to contribute to transformative projects through equitable and sustainable partnership. At the same time, growth must be inclusive. This means addressing inequality, supporting small and medium-sized enterprises, and investing in human capital so that no one is left behind. But no economy can thrive without security, rule of law, and strong institutions. Italy is supporting several projects to strengthen legal frameworks and combat corruption and organized crime, key building blocks for democracy governance. Under the leadership of Secretary General Ramdin, we are eager to explore new areas of cooperation, including cybersecurity, where shared risk call for shared solution. In this spirit, Italy's Guardia di Finanza will host a training program in September on countering illicit financial flows, open to all organizations of American states members. We look forward to continuing our close partnership with the OAS and its members, and we will remain fully committed to advancing our common goals. I wish you a very successful and productive assembly. Thank you.
Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you, Mr. Foreign Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Mr. Secretary General Ramdin, ladies and gentlemen ambassadors. It is a privilege for me to speak on behalf of France, a permanent observer of the OAS since 1972. I would like to congratulate the new Secretary General, Albert Ramdin, and to wish you the best success during his tenure with the support of France. In a context of geopolitical difficulties that shake the foundations of the international order, the further strengthening of the partnership between the Americas, the European Union, and France is ever more necessary to ensure peace, security, and development. We share the values of the OAS, and particularly those that support the theme of this 55th General Assembly, to build resilient economies in the Americas, inclusive economies in the Americas. Together with Costa Rica, we hosted the third conference on the oceans in Nice with the participation of the Secretary General. 55 countries attended, 11 from this region ratified the BBNG. And I remind those countries that have not yet done to bring your ratification instruments on the 2nd of September 2025 to the General Assembly of the United Nations. These values are also those of integration through dialogue, the strengthening of democracy, and respect for human rights, which constitute the bases for durable economic development. I remind those assembled that we continue to support Ukraine in the face of the aggression and in the face of the crisis in the Middle East. The Americas are a zone of peace, but you are not free of violence. And Haiti is a reminder that we have a serious security crisis, and we call on the OAS to continue its support. We support the Caribbean Initiative for Peace, together with Kenya, and the daily suffering faced by the Haitian people. We encourage all of those authorities in charge with transition to ensure free elections in February 2026, as long as that is possible. We also support the situation in Venezuela and Nicaragua and call on Caracas to renew an open dialogue to support individual liberties, human rights, and democratic institutions. France in 2024 has increased eightfold its support of the OAS. This is the highest increase in our support for this organization in our history. We are proud and will continue to work towards these ends. In 2024, we also tripled our contribution to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. We also increased our support to OAS electoral observer missions and worked together with the Inter-American Commission on Women to strengthen the political participation of women in the Americas and to further gender equality in the economic sphere. We also have, for more than 20 years, supported the human rights course in Rio. France will finance 2 other cooperation projects this year in the area of public administration and promotion of environmental, social, economic, and cultural rights. And we also expect to promote a program in the area of security. I also congratulate the presence of the French language in this America's continent, from north to south. We had the pleasure of signing this morning with the OAS a project to strengthen the teaching of French in the Eastern Caribbean, to strengthen the position of French with insular states in the Caribbean. Dear colleagues, France, true to its tradition, stands beside you for us to face the global challenges to peace and security in this hemisphere in support of our shared values. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Holy See expresses its sincere gratitude to the government of Antigua and Barbuda for the warm welcome extended in hosting the General Assembly this year. I am honored to convey the greetings of His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, who began his pontificate with the words, "Peace be with you all." This message is addressed to you, to this nation, to the entire world. The theme of this assembly resonates deeply with the Holy See's central concern for the dignity of the human person and the promotion of integral human development throughout the hemisphere. Over the past 2 decades, the Caribbean region has been severely affected not only by climate change, but also by rising levels of crime and violence. Small islands and low-lying coastal states are especially vulnerable due to their unprotected coastal lines. The Holy See is deeply concerned about this growing threat. In this first address to the diplomatic corps accredited to the Holy See, Pope Leo identified 3 essential principles for achieving a prosperous society that involves the entire family of peoples: peace, justice, and truth. The first principle is peace. Peace is indispensable for a flourishing society. Peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but a commitment to personal transformation. Strengthening the bonds of peace demands a renewed commitment to multilateral diplomacy, which remain essential for the peaceful resolution of disputes. In this sense, this delegation welcomes the effort that the member states are making to address the grave security and institutional crisis in Haiti. The Holy See, within its limits, assures her commitments at a humanitarian level to attend to our Haitian brothers and sisters. Second, justice is fundamental in today's changing world. Governments have a responsibility to foster harmonious societies based in recognition of the dignity of every human person. Every individual has the right to live and to develop their full potential. The state must invest in the family, uphold the dignity of all human life, from the unborn to the elderly, and in situation of illness, and promote education so that each person can aspire to a better future. The Holy See, while welcoming the resolution that will be presented addressing the critical mental health crisis in the Americas, affirms its commitment to the health of every human person. Finally, resilience and inclusive economies must be grounded in truth. The Holy See teaches that truth and charity are inseparable because truth is always directed toward the good of others. As artificial intelligence continues to evolve, The Holy See urges government to protect human dignity and ensure that no voices are silenced or marginalized by technology. Mr. President, the Holy See reaffirms its enduring commitment in the Western Hemisphere. Lastly, the Holy See expresses heartfelt thanks to the Member States for the resolution recognition of the contributions of Pope Francis to inter-American values, which will be brought before this General Assembly for consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank the Excellencies, Director General Francisco Javier Gasso Matoses, Undersecretary Giorgio Silli, Ambassador Celine Guisti, and Monsignor Cruz Serrano for your remarks. We will now continue with the interventions by the People's Republic of China and the European Union, along with Ukraine. Again, unannounced, 3 speakers, the PRC, European Union, and Ukraine.
Your Excellency Secretary General Ram Ding, Your Excellency President Green, distinguished delegates, dear friends, it is such a great pleasure to come to the beautiful Antigua and Barbuda, nestled in the blue waters of the Caribbean. I would like to thank our gracious host for the wonderful arrangements. Let me also take this opportunity to wish the OAS greater success under the leadership of Secretary General Ram Ding, so as to bring more benefits to regional countries and people. The theme this year, building a resilient, inclusive economies in the Americas, reflects the common aspirations of regional countries to address challenges and pursue development and revitalization. China and LAC countries are both members of the Global South family. Development and prosperity are our inherent right, and modernization is our common pursuit. At the 4th Ministerial Meeting of the China CELAC Forum last month, President Xi Jinping announced the launch of 5 programs, namely the Solidarity, Development, Civilization, Peace, and People-to-People connectivity programs. This has provided strong momentum for our efforts to build a China-LAC community with a shared future in greater depth and with greater substance. At present, the century-defining transformation is accelerating across the globe. Bloc confrontation is ceding, and protectionism is surging. Facing the turbulent and fluid international situation, China and LAC countries should stand on the right side of history, respond to global uncertainties with solidarity, and pursue development and prosperity through cooperation. We need to uphold equality and jointly enhance mutual respect and trust, which is the political foundation of our relations. The LAC region is a treasured homeland of the Latin American and the Caribbean people. China-LAC cooperation has no geopolitical calculations, does not target any third party, and should be free from disruption by any third party. China firmly supports the efforts of LAC countries to safeguard their sovereignty and independence. We hope the LAC countries will also continue to resolutely uphold the One China principle and support China's efforts to safeguard its sovereignty and territorial integrity. We need to seek mutual benefit and jointly draw a blueprint for development and rejuvenation. Trade between China and LAC countries last year exceeded $500 billion. Chinese investment in the region has surpassed $600 billion. Over 20 LAC countries have joined the Belt and Road Cooperation Framework, and a supersized China-LAC market covering 2 billion people is taking shape. China will follow through on President Xi Jinping's announcement, including providing a $66 billion yuan credit line and importing more quality products from the region so as to keep empowering the development of LAC countries. We need to champion openness and inclusiveness and jointly stand for international fairness and justice. We need to choose openness over isolation, inclusiveness over exclusion, and solidarity over division. We need to jointly promote an equal and orderly multipolar world and a universally beneficial and inclusive economic globalization. Safeguard the international system with the UN at its core and the international order underpinned by international law, and increase the representation and voices of developing countries. We need to improve the well-being of the people and jointly set a shining example for South-South cooperation. In recent years, our people are embracing each other with increasing warmth. Latin American and Caribbean specialty agricultural products are spicing up the Chinese people's table. Livelihood projects such as agrivoltaics, Jingcao farming, and Luban workshop have benefited numerous households in the LAC region. In the next 3 years, we will initiate 300 small and beautiful projects and implement other cooperation initiatives to deliver more tangible benefits to the countries and people of the region. Over the past 21 years, since China became a permanent observer to the OAS, we have firmly supported the organization in playing a positive role in boosting regional peace, stability, prosperity, and development. The China OAS Cooperation Fund supported nearly 100 programs of the OAS General Secretariat and member states and brought nearly 200 officials, scholars, and students to study in China. Continuing to deepen cooperation with China will facilitate the development of the OAS and serve the common interests of regional countries. No matter how the world may change, China will always stand by LAC countries as a good friend and a good partner. We look forward to enhancing dialogue and communication and conducting friendly cooperation with the OAS to strive for steady and sustained growth of our relations. Distinguished delegates, dear friends, together China and LAC countries account for 1/5 of the world's land area and 1/4 of its population and economy. We are the countries with the greatest growth potential and vitality. Our solidarity and cooperation will inject constant impetus into our respective development and rejuvenation. Let's join hands to bring a better life to our people, open a new chapter in our modernization, and create a brighter tomorrow for the China-LAC community with a shared future. Thank you very much.
Minister Green, Secretary General Ramdin, Ministers, Excellencies. I'd like to express my gratitude to the OAS for the kind invitation to participate in this General Assembly and to thank the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda for graciously hosting this year's meeting. I wish to underscore the dynamism at the heart of the European Union's relations with the countries of the region. I have just come from Brussels, where we concluded a very successful summit with Canada, and we look forward to the next CELAC-EU summit in Colombia in November, as well as forthcoming summits with Brazil and Mexico, full of vision and ambition. Our economic cooperation, already based on a very dense network of agreements, is poised for further significant deepening with the conclusion, after more than 20 years of negotiations, of the EU-Mercosur agreement and the recent EU-Chile Advanced Framework Agreement, and also the EU-Mexico Global Agreement to be signed in the coming months. Our objective is to facilitate the creation of a strong and self-reliant area of mutual economic prosperity across the Atlantic based on economic security and independence. The European Union Latin American Caribbean Global Gateway Investment Agenda, under which we pledge to mobilize €45 billion by 2027, will deliver smart, clean and secure investments. Within its framework, a Team Europe initiative for inclusive and resilient societies has been launched and will mobilize around €1 billion. Resilient economies in the Americas, but also in Europe, require a secure and safe environment, both internationally and regionally. They need multilateral systems and a rules-based international order grounded in the UN Charter to work effectively. This order, which our regions have helped to build, is under mounting pressure, and our shared promise to defend it is more important than ever. In this context, we appreciate the OAS principled position of support to Ukraine. We ask the countries of the OAS to continue adding their strong voice to calls for Russia to match Ukraine's agreement to an unconditional ceasefire. There is an urgent need for de-escalation in the Middle East. Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. Diplomacy is the path to achieve a sustainable solution. Mr. President, the security and humanitarian situation in Haiti is extremely worrying. We wish to thank the Secretary General for reinstating the OAS Group of Friends on Haiti, and we will be part of it. We will also maintain our pledge to support the Multinational Security Support Mission to Haiti with €10 million. Building resilient and inclusive economies is not just about creating jobs, but also about providing a safe environment for our citizens. We have all seen how organised crime and illicit trafficking, including drugs, are a threat to both our regions. Tackling them requires more cooperation and more structured cooperation in particular. That is why, for the upcoming CELAC EU Summit, we have proposed an EU-LAC Alliance for Citizen Security. Our joint work with the OAS is important to us. We reaffirm our commitment to working with the OAS in the area of peace and security, including by continuing or renewing our programs on implementation of UNSCR 1540, on non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, on combating illicit proliferation and trafficking of small arms and light weapons, on biosafety and security, as well as on cyber issues. We encourage the OAS to promote full adherence to the Arms Trade Treaty in the region, and we will continue to support politically and financially the OAS efforts in the Guatemala-Belize adjacency zone, and we will maintain coordination with the Inter-American Defense Board. Resilient and inclusive economies also need human rights guarantees. I wish to emphasize that the EU stands in solidarity with the people of Venezuela and will continue to work towards a democratic, Venezuelan-led solution to the long-standing crisis in that country. Furthermore, we remain concerned about the deterioration of the situation in Nicaragua and in Cuba. Our main objective remains to support reforms through a policy of critical and constructive engagement. On the occasion of electing new commissioners to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, we reiterate our support to this independent body, and we reaffirm our intention to continue supporting their work financially. We further call on the region to ensure that the Inter-American human rights system has adequate means to continue to play its role. We also need to intensify efforts to protect our democracies, which are weakened through restrictive legislation affecting civil society. The EU's commitment to electoral democracy is confirmed by the deployment of 4 EU election observation missions in the region this year: Ecuador, Bolivia, Guyana, and probably Honduras. Your Excellencies, once again, I wish to express my appreciation for your kind invitation to the European Union to speak at this dialogue and the General Assembly of the OAS. Thank you.
Dear Chairman, dear Minister Green, dear Secretary General, all friends in the room, it's such an honor for me to be here as permanent representative of Ukraine to the OAS, and especially as an ambassador to the beautiful Antigua and Barbuda. As my country continues to defend itself from brutal Russian aggression, and as we work to reach peace in Ukraine, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for the support to Ukraine, to freedom, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and also reiterate how important it is for Ukraine to be a member and friend of this global family of nations here in the Americas. And therefore, I would like you to put on a special address that my President Zelensky recorded from The Hague for this dialogue. Thank you.
En el marco del lema de esta asamblea,
for standing with Ukraine and supporting our people during this full-scale war. We in Ukraine never wanted this war, and we are doing everything we can to end it as soon as possible. And in this, every voice matters. The voice of every nation, not only those who are close to us geographically in Europe, and not only the biggest countries. We do remember that you supported 6 documents within the Organization of American States, including the suspension of Russia's status as an observer state. And thank you for keeping this decision effective towards a country that rejects the core values and principles of this organization. Thank you. International law can only work when most of the world truly values security, peace, and of course, justice. That means there must be a shared understanding in every region, in most capitals, that the time of colonial, aggressive, terrorist wars must come to an end. And we can make that happen. Just think about it. We've been holding the line against one of the biggest armies in the world for 4 years now, in a full-scale war. Ukraine's defense is happening under our national flag only, our blue and yellow. And we are thankful for all the support, but on the ground, it's just our soldiers. In the sky, only our pilots and our drones. And at sea, it's the bravery of our men and women keeping our ports safe and pushing back against Russia, which is trying to shut down our access to global trade. Yes, our friends are helping, and we really appreciate that. Thank you. But it's Ukrainians doing the actual fighting. And we've defended our independence. And we are out there protecting our people every day. And we get it. Without global solidarity, it would have been way harder. That's why I urge you, please, do not slow down your support for Ukraine. We count on your strong stance, especially when you vote at the United Nations. And we value every form of cooperation with your nations. And we will continue opening Ukrainian embassies in your region. We strongly support creating a special Ukraine-Latin America partnership because it's something we all need to grow stronger together. Dear friends, during this war, Ukraine has gained huge experience in staying strong, and we are ready to share it. We know how to quickly and reliably rebuild energy systems so people still have power even in emergencies. And we are creating digital services to replace old government systems, real tools that help people and help businesses. And we are making sure our kids keep learning, even when they can't go to school or university because of this war. That kind of solution can be useful for many other nations too. And we have built one of the biggest experiences in the world with drones, both using them and stopping them. And we are ready to help our friends with that too. Dear Chairman Green, dear Secretary General Ramdin, dear ministers, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being true friends to Ukraine. And please keep the pressure on Russia in every way you can. It matters for peace. Take what we have learned on the defense front and use it to make your own countries stronger. And of course, my sincerest gratitude to the host nations of Antigua and Barbuda for your friendship. And hey, you are all welcome in Ukraine anytime, of course. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
We thank His Excellency President Zelensky for his very important message, and to Ambassador Markadova for facilitating. We also want to recognize the contributions of Ambassadors Brian Glynn and Xi Feng. We will now hear comments from the heads of delegation of the member states in the order in which they have requested the floor. Member states are invited to speak during either of the two assigned segments of this agenda. I kindly ask, by way of reiterating, that states limit your interventions to 4 minutes. We will start with Costa Rica, followed by United States of America, Panama, Antigua Barbuda, Mexico, Bolivia, El Salvador, Guyana, Colombia, Guatemala, Paraguay, Uruguay, Brazil, Peru, and Canada. We'll start with Costa Rica.
Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, heads of delegations, representatives, permanent observer missions, distinguished representatives of international organizations, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. Costa Rica welcomes this dialogue with permanent observers. This forum not only is a symbol of political rapprochement, it also bears fruit. The more than 70 observer nations have been fundamental allies of our hemispheric agenda. In Costa Rica's case, we have received ongoing support in health, social development, education, justice, immigration, and the fight against organized crime. One of the most pressing challenges for Costa Rica and the region has to do with security. Technical and financial support is of vital importance, and we will be addressing this in the Summit of the Americas that will take place in Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. Cooperation provided has been both financial, political, and otherwise. We thank observers because we've been able to strengthen our key institutions that have implemented community projects and also implemented projects in green technology and others. We also want to welcome the active participation of observer nations who have accredited ambassadors, France, Spain, Italy, and the Holy See. Their daily commitment have allowed for the show of solidarity and political will. We also would like to thank the collaboration of Japan, Korea, Germany, Korea, Switzerland, Portugal, Morocco, Ukraine, the European Union, among many others. Their support has been essential to be able to address common challenges and to build shared opportunities. A just transition towards sustainable economies, which is proposed by this GA, means that we need these kinds of partnerships that are effective and solid. No country alone may be able to do this. We need responsible transfer of technology, scientific cooperation, and political will so that no one is left behind. Costa Rica reiterates that it is important to have accountability and transparency in the use of resources that are challenged through, or channeled rather, through the OAS. Trustworthiness is strengthened by measures that are solid. We are committed and reiterate our commitment to the pillars of the OAS. With renewed enthusiasm, we will continue to collaborate with you in initiatives that lead to development, inclusion, and prosperity for our region. This dialogue is witness to the fact that a hemisphere open to the world is a hemisphere that is stronger. Thank you very much.
United States of America.
Thank you, Chair. The United States welcomes the opportunity to engage with the permanent observers of the OAS. We thank Antigua and Barbuda for hosting this dialogue. The OAS is at a make or break point. It has the treaty mandate to address the constellation of challenges that afflict the peace, security, and democratic character of our hemisphere. But it can do so only if the member states are willing to make decisions needed to prove this organization is able to rise and meet the moment. That is why this dialogue and the work of the OAS matters more than ever. Let me use as an example Haiti. There, an escalating security crisis risks staggering consequences for the people of Haiti and the region. Armed gangs have publicly declared their objective to overthrow the government by armed force, and they already control large swaths of Port-au-Prince. Over 1 million people are displaced. Institutions have collapsed. This is a humanitarian emergency and a threat to peace and security. Few member states here are strangers to the destabilizing effects of Haitian mass migration. We must utilize this organization to coordinate a region-wide effort to mitigate this crisis before this crisis further affects our nations. So far, the United States has shouldered a disproportionate share of this burden. We've provided over $830 million in support of the Multilateral Security Support Mission. But this mission cannot succeed alone. Many member states have the capability and the experience to participate in a mission to clear the gangs out of crucial areas and thus stabilize the situation. But they need to make decisions to contribute. And we need to empower the OAS Secretary General to coordinate these contributions into a coherent operational plan. After all, what are multilateral forums for without credible capacities for action? The United States makes this call in good faith, and it stands ready to support Secretary General Ramdan's effort to restore OAS leadership in the region. This means we need to give him the tools to put together a viable operational plan and to coordinate the actions of member states to fulfill it. This action also includes continuing to improve donor reporting and aligning regular funds towards the core mandates. It also means observers who donate funds to the OAS should respect the principles enshrined in the Inter-American Democratic Charter. We will object to all efforts from any member or observer that seek to leverage financial contributions to undermine reforms or weaken democracy in the Americas. Permanent observers can play a decisive role in shaping the next chapter of the OAS. The organization will seek to lean on strong democratic partners, both for advice and financial support. The United States welcomes the contributions that make possible the work of the Department of Electoral Cooperation and Observation, which is preparing for over 10 missions this year. These missions help support electoral integrity and public confidence in democratic systems. We thank those already contributing and urge other democratic partners to join. Equally vital is enhanced democratic observer support for the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. The United States proudly supports the candidacy of Rosa Maria Payá, whose life's work defending civil liberties and calling out repressions make her uniquely suited to this moment. Let us also not ignore the persistent threat posed by malign external actors who manipulate governance, migration, and information to distort regional priorities. We're clear-eyed on who is responsible for this chaos. Colleagues, the challenges we face are complex, but we must ask and answer the fundamental question at hand. Will this organization rise to meet this crucial moment? The OAS member states and its democratic permanent observers must act if we are to answer this question in the affirmative. We are ready to work to this end. We invite others to join us. The United States remains committed to working alongside each of you to strengthen this organization, defend sovereignty, and uphold liberty across the Americas. Thank you.
Next country, Panama.
Thank you, President, Secretary General, Excellency Albert Ramdin, Foreign Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendez, heads of delegations, member states, representatives, ladies and gentlemen, observer states. It is an honor for Panama to be part of this dialogue. And this is the occasion to thank observer nations for their active participation. Their contributions are important so that we can comply with our mandates. Their contributions to the pillars of the OAS, democracy, human rights, security, and integral development, have been essential for the design and execution of programs, projects, and different initiatives that directly benefit our countries. For Panama, the relationship with permanent observers is essential. This administration has prioritized strengthening of relationships, not only bilaterally, but also through multilateralism here at the OAS. In this spirit, Panama has promoted initiatives to show the value of sports diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, and the importance of cooperation. With the Permanent Observer Mission of Morocco, we had an initiative which was a musical meeting of minds. Together with the Permanent Observer Mission of Italy, we had an event which showed peace of Europe and the Americas. This was using sports diplomacy through a fencing event. These examples show what we can achieve if we work together. To build bridges, to have unity in diversity. Allow me to conclude by pointing out an instrument which for Panama is extremely important in this organization, the protocol and the treaty that has to do with the neutrality of the Panama Canal, which is at the Secretariat of the OAS. This protocol ensures that the Panama Canal can be accessible and open in a situation of equality, whether there be war or peace. This instrument is a step towards peace, stability, and collective security here and beyond the hemisphere. The Panama Canal is strategic for trade and global connections, and it is a symbol of Panama's commitment to international cooperation and multilateralism. So Panama would respectfully ask you to support this and support the neutrality of our region and to support equitable access to one of the most important maritime channels in the world. Thank you.
Antigua and Barbuda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda, I want to extend a very warm welcome to all of our permanent representatives, many of whom are old friends, and it is very good to see you. For those of you who have come for the first time, we welcome you to our home, and we hope that your stay here will be enjoyable. We reaffirm, Mr. Chairman, the importance of multilateralism, especially at a time when the world is facing persistent conflict and instability. Now, more than ever, what is needed is not less multilateral engagement, but much more. More dialogue, more cooperation, and more joint action. In that spirit, Antigua and Barbuda welcomes the opportunity to deepen partnerships on an individual basis with all permanent observers, but also on an institutional basis between the members of the OAS collectively and the permanent observers also collectively. As a small island developing state, we bring to this forum a critical and urgent perspective, one shaped by our vulnerability to external shocks and by the pressing need to accelerate resilience building. The pace at which global crises are intensifying is outstripping our capacity to respond. We are on the front line of emergencies that we did not create, climate change being chief among them. We urge our partners, especially permanent observers, to translate pledges into meaningful and measurable support through supporting concessional financing, investing in resilient infrastructure, paying attention to the need for debt restructuring and debt forgiveness, and for advancing the mechanisms for loss and damage in the context of climate change. Now, while we welcome contributions that strengthen human rights and democracy, we must also press for a development paradigm that reflects the real challenges of small developing states in the OAS. Access to concessional financing should not be based on an outdated income classification, but on real vulnerability. In this context, Mr. Chairman, my delegation welcomes the statement made here by Spain today, signaling its commitment to more robust responses to the development needs of vulnerable countries such as ours. Antigua and Barbuda believes that the OAS should remain open and receptive to financial contributions from all its member states, as such support strengthens the organization's capacity to fulfill its vital responsibilities to the people of this hemisphere. Antigua and Barbuda also shares deep concern over the continuing instability in the Middle East. Though small in size, we join in the global call for urgent de-escalation and a return to dialogue and peace. We continue to support the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. Antigua and Barbuda joins the call for an immediate ceasefire and a negotiated peace that fully respects Ukraine's sovereignty and its rights under international law. For small nations, political and economic instability elsewhere translates into rising costs, declining trade and investment, and greater hardship for our people. That is why peace, security, and sustainable development are indivisible goals. Finally, Antigua and Barbuda encourages more frequent and substantive engagement between member states and observer states. This ought not to be an annual event. We need to have more of them in order to have greater dialogue. The strength of this organization lies in our shared commitment to listen, to exchange ideas, and to act together. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The delegation of Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary General, Mr. Assistant Secretary General. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, heads of delegations of the member states and permanent observers. Mexico values dialogue and cooperation between the member states and the permanent observers of the OAS and thanks the interest of these for the technical and financial contributions for the themes that are a priority in our region. Our hemisphere is enriched with your collaboration, your good practices, and national experiences. Permanent observers help in reinforcing the values of the OAS, consolidate our relationship with the worldwide community of great importance. We value your contributions and your initiatives that allow us to undertake better the work of our organization, and we plead for cooperation to strengthen these constructive links with our sovereign countries. In the global context that we face today, Mexico supports multilateralism as the most effective way to jointly face the numerous challenges that we face in our hemisphere: inequality, migration, racism and discrimination, the health crisis, climate change, and sustainable development. My delegation takes as a starting point that only through addressing the structural causes of these problems will really be able to make a more inclusive, peaceful, and developed region. We invite permanent observers to orient your cooperation towards an integrated and sustainable development that supports human rights. Mexico will always seek a better and constructive dialogue with all of the regions of the world and will always welcome the presence and cooperation respectfully of the permanent observers in our region. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The delegation of Bolivia.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, my dear brother, Mr. Chairman. I wish to congratulate the Secretary General, Mr. Randin, and Assistant Secretary General, Mr. Mendez, as well as the heads of delegations of member states and permanent observers. On behalf of Luis Alce Catacora and the people of Bolivia, greetings. We are particularly appreciative of the ambassadors of permanent observers at the OAS for your interest in participating in this august assembly, for the cooperation shown to us for a number of different projects and programs for Latin America. We are facing a complicated international context full of great challenges, both to our organization as well as to our countries. The United Nations Conference for Trade and Development, in its report called Outlook for Trade and Development 2025, under pressure and uncertainty, redefines the world economic perspectives and asserts that the world economy is entering a recessionary context, anticipating that world growth will slow down to 2.25% in 2025. This report identifies that among countries, the main reasons for this are lower demand, financial turbulence, and uncertainty in the financial systems that are identified on pressures on all developing countries. According to the Economic Commission on Latin America and the Caribbean, the economy in our regions will grow by a percentage of 2% this year, 4.4% less than that growth projected in December of 2024. On the other hand, the Office of the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres of the United Nations, lists as key priorities for 2025, warning that the modern world, or the world today, faces a true Pandora's box. And global challenges are uncontrolled conflicts, inequality levels that are growing, climate change crises, and the unregulated growth of technology. Nonetheless, he underscored that with determination and a unified effort, it is still possible to change the course and revert the trends present today. Nonetheless, faced with all of these diagnoses and research that point to the need for a coordinated strategy to face global challenges, instead of coming together today, we weep for the loss of innocent lives due to wars. I would like to take the opportunity of being here in this forum to ask for justice for our Palestinian brothers and sisters who have the right to live peacefully in their own territory. Likewise, I repudiate in the strongest possible terms the bombing of Iran by the United States. These actions violate international law and risk an escalation of violence in the region of the Middle East. Likewise, this could bring about fatal consequences for the entire planet. We must join our voices together to call on a ceasefire in these conflicts and calling for the world to be a zone of peace. From Bolivia, we believe that in these uncertain times, we must strengthen international solidarity. We believe it necessary more than ever today to hear the voices of our peoples, to restore the rule of law based on a guarantee of individual human rights in the world. It is ever more important that we further effective international cooperation to make the rights of countries in our region, especially those of us more susceptible to climate change crises and the effects of climate change. One positive example of this is international solidarity last year when we received support to mitigate the effects of flooding and forest fires that affected the Amazon region of Bolivia. We deeply appreciate international cooperation efforts that supported us on that at that time and are seeking to recover from that disaster and are working together to implement the recommendations received from the visit of the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights, Social, Cultural, and Environmental Rights of the International Commission on Human Rights. Finally, I would like to point out that we need to not give up hope that the right of peoples to live in peace and to prevent and resolve conflicts through dialogue and diplomacy that is effective may prevail in our region as well as in the world, leaving no one behind. Thank you. El Salvador, you have the floor. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Greetings to the heads of delegations of the member states and the permanent observers at this high-level dialogue, and who express your commitment and your support with this hemisphere by your presence here. We support and appreciate the efforts of permanent observers in this organization when we face global challenges as the migration, humanitarian, and climate change crises that have already been noted. This is one more opportunity to deepen our dialogue based on mutual respect and building on the links of friendship for our common goals. We also need to move forward towards a more strategic cooperation with an integrated view of the pillars that undergird the work of this organization. The role of the Secretary General is ever more important to strengthen cooperation that would allow us to diversify projects according to the priorities of member states and the strategic goals of this organization, and to allow for permanent observers to evaluate jointly all of the proposals to support those that are in keeping with their objectives. All of this, together with a transparent and effective management in the implementation and the follow-up on these projects, to further strengthen trust in a context where middle-income countries are challenged. In this regard, we are hopeful about the results on the 4th International Conference on Financing to be held in Seville, Spain, following this General Assembly, and for the need to bring about changes for international financing for development with models that are oriented towards development in small economies and middle-income countries. With this objective in mind, we also propose that high-level dialogue forums such as this one strengthen the role with permanent observers in our region with the support of our Secretariat to give continuity to this dialogue and to adapt to our region's specific needs. Mr. Secretary General, we are aware that building resilient and inclusive economies in our hemisphere is not a job that we can achieve alone. This requires strategic alliances with our friends and supporters that complement the efforts in our own countries based on mutual respect and an understanding of the unconditioned roles and responsibilities of our member states. El Salvador is pleased to support these efforts of international cooperation, and El Salvador has adopted several international instruments to channel financing and infrastructure for international cooperation, a commitment which is in keeping with the launch of the Agency for International Cooperation for El Salvador, which underscores our commitment to contribute to social welfare, security, effective governance, and economic development. In El Salvador, we have undertaken a strong model for a more inclusive and sustainable and fair development for our countries. First, bringing peace to all Salvadorians as an indispensable condition for development. Today, we focus our efforts on social welfare, promoting strategies in the area of food security, technology, and logistics that would create the conditions to allow for sustainable growth. Along these lines, we value the cooperation, both in technical and financial areas, for bilateral and multilateral efforts. And we support the effort of Spain, France, Korea, Holland, and the European Union for cooperation in areas that are of benefit to children, migrants, access to justice, and we appreciate the efforts are done with a balanced and inclusive approach to avoid disparities in resources, both for projects that have already proven their viability and adding in areas of tourism and artificial intelligence and others. We wish to continue working with a vision towards a future based on social and economic development for the benefit of our peoples. Thank you.
Now turn to the delegation of Guyana.
Foreign Affairs, colleague ambassadors, Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, permanent observers. As Guyana's representative, it is my great pleasure to participate in this year's dialogue with the permanent observers as together we continue our work to build a peaceful and prosperous hemisphere undergirded by the 4 pillars of the OAS: democracy, human rights, multidimensional security, and integral development. The theme for this year's General Assembly, Building Resilient, Inclusive Economies in the Americas, is one of paramount importance. We now live in a world characterized by rapid changes and challenges foreseen and unforeseen, and where the need for economic resilience has never been more pressing. From the adverse effects of climate change to the volatility of global markets, we must manage the economies in our region to survive and succeed in continually emerging situations. As member states of the OAS, we are privileged to partner with permanent observers in this exercise. This dialogue provides ample opportunity for member states to engage with permanent observers with a view to formulating a comprehensive approach that addresses the immediate and long-term needs of our societies. The OAS, through its various organs, has been working to advance the agenda of resilient and inclusive economies. As permanent observers, your diverse contributions and support enhance the capacity of the OAS to implement programs that address the multifaceted challenges that we face. We acknowledge and appreciate the different efforts you, permanent observers, have made over the years in supporting the development of our hemisphere in key areas such as capacity building and human capital development, enhancing institutional capacity and governance, and promoting sustainable development, environmental protection, and in infrastructure development. Looking ahead, Guyana counts on your continued support as we explore new avenues to diversify our economies. We also take this opportunity to make a special appeal for increased financial, technical, and other support to help Haiti address the ever-pressing, multifaceted situation in that country, and to thank Kenya for putting boots on the ground in its ongoing leadership of the multinational security support mission. This General Assembly has afforded us the opportunity to have full and frank discussions on these important matters with a view of developing a more strategic roadmap of engagement going forward. I reiterate Guyana's full commitment to this process. The task ahead of us is a challenging one, but with a shared commitment for cooperation and collaboration, open dialogue, and collective action, it is an achievable reality. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Guyana. We will deviate just a slight bit and allow for 3 more presentations from member states before we go back to the second group of presentations from the observers. In that regard, we will take Colombia, Guatemala, and Paraguay. And to be efficient with time, I will make no announcements for those 3 except now in this order: Colombia, Guatemala, and Paraguay. We're trying to make up time, at the same time allowing for all of our member states to make the presentations. Please, Colombia.
Gracias. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to Antigua and Barbuda for your leadership and hospitality, Mr. Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, Member States, and permanent observers, excellencies. The government of Colombia sincerely thanks the permanent observers who, through their participation in this organization, offer their support and walk alongside the efforts to face the challenges we face in an effort to meet common global challenges. Colombia values deeply the support of permanent observers to the various mechanisms and initiatives of the OAS, which are aligned with the priorities of our own national policies. In particular, we thank the political and financial support of permanent observers to support the MAP peace process, where this support continues to be very important to the policies of total peace in our country. We particularly thank all of the countries that make up the fund: Spain, Germany, Ireland, Holland, the United Kingdom, Sweden, and Turkey, as well as Norway, for their contributions, but not only to the OAS, but also to Colombia. We likewise extend an invitation to consider the possibility of support by sending national experts or personnel. This is a two-way benefit of acquiring capacities in the experiences of peace processes in a challenging and real context, but also to be able to support the mission of this effort in our country. Colombia is firmly convinced that multilateralism and hemispheric cooperation are key to building peace. This is an effort that continues to need the valuable contribution of all actors present. We welcome the announcement by Spain of the discussion to be held in the meeting in Seville for funding for development, an issue on which Colombia has participated vigorously in a number of international scenarios. We know that we need a new vision on how we look at our countries and the metrics used by the international financial system that would allow our countries to address the key needs of our societies and to face the triple crisis in our planet and promote peace not only within our borders but also beyond them. Additionally, the commitment of the Republic of Italy, which has supported consultations through the follow-up mechanism for the Berlin Convention in Buenos Aires, Bogotá, Cartagena, and in Panama City. We also extend our thanks to the government of Liechtenstein, who throughout 2024 supported the Inter-American Commission on Women and the process on the Plan for Women, Peace, and Security. It is important to underscore all of these contributions and the efforts of permanent observer countries in the framework of multidimensional security. Our country also recognizes the Swiss contribution to the demining program, where we hope to be a reference point that could be of use to all of the world. We also congratulate the initiative in the area of drugs to Spain with a gender perspective for drug policy. We also recognize the valuable support by the European Union for the program for assistance on arms and munitions and strengthening biosecurity and fair biodiversity, in which Colombia wishes to participate in 2025. We also invite your countries to continue supporting the OAS in all of these efforts, because these efforts translate into greater benefit for our countries. We have begun a dialogue to negotiate a promotion for human rights for Afro-descendant peoples in the Americas. This initiative has counted on the support of member states, and we also invite permanent observer missions to join us in this effort. Finally, Colombia will always be willing to continue contributing with our own experience to cooperate in each of the countries of the permanent observers for your participation bilaterally and multilaterally. We deeply appreciate these. Thank you, Mr. President.
Excelentísimo.
Your Excellencies, ministers, heads of delegation, ambassadors, honorable representatives of the permanent observers, Your Excellency, Ambassador Nestor, Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendez. It is of great pleasure to us to join the permanent observers who have shown their commitment to supporting the inter-American system. I wish to recognize the opening remarks of Secretary Randin for the dialogue with permanent observers that strengthens their role. Guatemala reiterates its recognition of the OAS as the oldest and most important forum for dialogue in the Americas to meet the regional challenges. The OAS continues to be a key platform to promote political dialogue, to strengthen cooperation, defend human rights, and to build strategic alliances that are lasting. However, we are aware of the difficult moment facing our organization and faced with the geopolitics of this moment, the financial troubles. This relationship with permanent observers is ever more valuable. In the year 2024, we had more than $24 million of commitments from permanent observers that underscores the importance. In April of 2025, $2.5 million had been received. This, despite the fact that permanent observers face their own internal challenges and share the consequences of a complex international scenario. For this reason, we value their continued willingness to support the cooperation with the Organization of American States and member states in their own initiatives, even in these moments of budgetary challenges. Their contributions are not limited to financial support and has an effect of a multiplier effect of synergies that present throughout the Americas. We consider that the theme of this meeting of the General Assembly, Resilient Inclusive Economies, is key to address structural inequalities and to set the bases and the foundations for better human-oriented development. We congratulate the support for electoral observer missions and the process of choosing judges for the Supreme Court in Guatemala. In 2024, Guatemala reiterates its support to continue strengthening democratic institutions, ensuring independent processes, and promoting transparency and accountability. Likewise, we express our support for the support of the adjacent area between Belize and Guatemala, thanks to the support of the European Union and others. This contributes to the development of these border communities. In the area of governance and security, Guatemala continues to strengthen its own institutional capacity with the technical support of the OAS through the good efforts of the Secretariat. We thank the European Union particularly for the design of the Central American Roadmap to prevent the traffic of illicit drugs and munitions, and various other countries for the support of multidimensional security efforts. We also acknowledge that Central America and the Caribbean are highly vulnerable areas to climate change and natural disasters. For this reason, strengthening mechanisms of coordination in the inter-American system in the area of risk management and humanitarian crises is key. For this reason, we thank the members of the Platform for MIPS Support, Portugal and Korea, for their contributions to this fund, and Spain for supporting the labor inclusion of refugees in Guatemala, which is being implemented currently. Mr. Chairman, we recognize the efforts of the External Affairs Department of the OAS, which has strengthened links between permanent observers and member states, allowing for a ever more effective and focused cooperation. To ensure the sustainability of this effort, Guatemala actively participates in the discussions on restructuring the Secretariat, the General Secretary's office, establishing clear mechanisms to ensure transparency and agility, both in the receipt of contributions from permanent observers and for projects. Guatemala reiterates its appreciation to all of the permanent observers for their constant support and willingness to add their efforts for a greater democracy and greater prosperity and resilience in our hemisphere. We trust that through these efforts of cooperation, we will continue moving forward to mutual solutions of benefit to all peoples in our continent. Thank you.
President of the General Assembly, distinguished heads of delegations of member states and permanent observers, Mr. Secretary General, Mr. Assistant Secretary General for Paraguay, this annual dialogue is an opportunity to strengthen cooperation and mutual collaboration. With respect to the 4 pillars of the organization, together with permanent observers. So we welcome this meeting, and so we highlight the contributions made by permanent observers in OAS implemented projects, which are aimed at improving institutional frameworks in critical areas such as multidimensional security, justice, the fight against transnational organized crime, human trafficking, and immigrant smuggling, as well as the fight against corruption, impunity, and cybersecurity. Given the worldwide challenges we face, we must continue to work together, respecting government priorities and national realities, and above all, taking into account the interest of our communities. And speaking of worldwide challenges, one of these is the care of the environment. So we must strengthen our fight against climate change and its pernicious effects, and also mitigate risks for natural disasters. In this sense, I want to reaffirm Paraguay's commitment to caring for the environment. We are considered one of the countries that has one of the lowest greenhouse gas emissions. So we want to see differentiated but shared responsibilities. We all have the obligation to take care of the environment, and only developed countries have the capacity and responsibility, and so we must see greater action on their part. Ladies and gentlemen, we are concerned about the current situation in Haiti, and we commit to undertaking efforts to finding a solution to this grave crisis, and the support of permanent observers is fundamentally important. With respect to electoral observation missions of the OAS, I would like to thank and recognize the support of permanent observers for this. These missions are one of the most important tools of our organization to improve democratic processes. Finally, we trust that we will continue to deepen and expand our relationship to contribute to our democratic systems, the inter-American human rights systems, and fundamental freedoms to have more prosperous and more just societies. Thank you.
Thank you, Paraguay. We will now hear from the next group of speakers from the permanent observers. And once again, I reiterate, in utmost humility, my request that we limit our presentations to 4 minutes in the interest of fairness and for the efficiency of time. We have 9 presenters in the next block of speakers. I will introduce 3 speakers at a time. And in this regard, I wish to give the microphone to His Excellency Marko Đuričić, the Foreign Minister of Serbia, followed by His Excellency Francois Vorepiro, Assistant Secretary for the Americas of Switzerland, and then to His Excellency Christoph Eck, Special Envoy for Climate Issues in the Caribbean and Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago of Germany. Foreign Minister Đuričić, the floor is yours.
Your Excellency, Honorable Secretary General of the Organization of American States, Mr. Albert Ramdin, Your Excellency, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs of Antigua and Barbuda, Mr. Chad Green, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is my particular pleasure at this distinguished gathering today that the Republic of Serbia has been given the opportunity to contribute to the open and constructive dialogue taking place under the auspices of the OAS. This annual session represents an important platform for the exchange of views, strengthening cooperation, and reaffirming common values that bind us regardless of geographical distance. For me personally, it's a great honor to be here, 2nd year in a row as Serbia's foreign minister. As permanent observer country, the Republic of Serbia strongly believes in the importance of multilateralism and in the contribution that this organization makes to stability, development, and democracy through the American continent. Our cooperation with the OAS General Secretariat has already been materialized through concrete joint projects in the fields of education, tourism, and digital transformation, and there is room and will ahead for further deepening of the partnership in segments of mutual interest. We particularly value the close ties we foster with numerous OAS member states. In recent years, we have witnessed the dynamic development of bilateral relations, both in the political, economic, and cultural spheres. Serbia is open to further connecting with this region through trade, investment in infrastructure and energy, educational programs, and cooperation in the field of sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, my country is hosting the specialized Expo exhibition in 2027, and I'm delighted to inform you that 10 days ago in Belgrade we hosted a preparatory session which gathered representatives from 154 countries. Our idea is to use the Expo 2027 exhibition in Belgrade as a tool for promoting individual member states from across the world and for reaffirming some of the principles of cooperation. That's why the slogan of the Expo exhibition is Play for Humanity, and you're all welcome to join in. Ladies and gentlemen, Serbia's foreign policy is shaped in accordance with our fundamental national interests and long-term vision of development. In addition to the international responsibility, we assume we proceed from the need to ensure stability and predictability in our own environment. Serbia remains steadfast in protecting the principle of free decision-making and independent definition of our own policies. Our foreign policy is conducted on the basis of rational assessment, and it is aligned with the needs of our citizens, aimed at protecting sovereignty and territorial integrity as inalienable principles and pillars of our national identity. And I want to thank all those who support Serbia's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Universal principles enshrined in the UN Charter and Serbia's development goals are the linchpin of all of our foreign policy initiatives. We are open to economic partnerships because we believe that prosperity leads to peace and stability. Your Excellencies, at a time when the world is undergoing profound transformation, when global challenges from climate change to digital security issues have become an everyday part of our agendas, we believe that cooperation between states is more necessary than ever. The OAS plays a significant role in shaping such cooperation in the Western Hemisphere, and Serbia, as a European partner, expresses its readiness to be a bridge in strengthening relations between our regions. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to future cooperation.
Mr. Secretary General, Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I warmly congratulate the Secretary General on his election. I wish you every success as you assume this important mandate at a pivotal moment for this region and the world. As you initiate your mandate, I would like to reiterate Switzerland's commitment to cooperate with the OAS, the world's oldest regional organization. How can we build resilient and inclusive economies? To achieve this, I believe three ingredients are essential: peace and security, strong institutions, and a diversified economy. Firstly, peace and security, which are the foundation of any sustainable development. Two countries in the Americas are particularly affected by insecurity and armed violence: Colombia and Haiti. In Colombia, Switzerland has been supporting for many years the various peace processes and the OAS mission. Despite all the obstacles and setbacks, Switzerland remains firmly committed to peace in Colombia and will continue its support. Switzerland is also present in Haiti. Swiss humanitarian aid focuses on protecting the most vulnerable and strengthening the resilience of the population against the impact of natural disasters. However, for these efforts to bear fruit, it is essential to improve security in Port-au-Prince and resolve the political crisis. We therefore welcome the OAS Secretary General's new political roadmap for Haiti. Secondly, strong institutions are also a key ingredient of democratic and economic resilience. Both the OAS Charter and the Swiss Constitution mandate the promotion of democracy in recognition of its importance for development. A culture of dialogue and respect for human rights foster more inclusive and sustainable economic development. Conversely, laws that restrict civil space or limit freedom of expression and association, such as the so-called foreign agents legislation, weaken the prospects of economic development. Switzerland will continue to support the crucial role of the Inter-American System of Human Rights and to participate in the OAS electoral observation mission. Democratic backsliding and the lack of respect for fundamental liberties are global challenges. We therefore encourage exchanges of experiences between the OAS and sister organizations such as the Council of Europe or the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance that Switzerland is chairing this year. Thirdly, a diversified economy is better able to resist, adapt, and thrive. Diversified economy weather the storms better. An economy that is not dominated by a single economic sector and does not depend on a single or very few trading partners is more resilient to crisis. Switzerland believes that open and fair trade is vital for dynamism and resilience. Switzerland and its partner of the European Free Trade Association have already concluded several free trade agreements with many countries of the Americas. We want to extend this network of free trade agreement with the region, notably with the Mercosur, and we hope to conclude this agreement very soon. Finally, and to conclude, I would like to reiterate Switzerland's commitment to this cause of resilience. Switzerland stands ready to continue its cooperation with the OAS and its member states to support the development of more robust democratic institutions and more inclusive and sustainable economies. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the Honorable Chet Green, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Antigua and Barbuda, ministers and delegates. Let me begin by thanking Antigua and Barbuda for their warm hospitality. Germany would also like to congratulate His Excellency Albert Ramdin on his recent election as OAS Secretary General. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadefuhl had the pleasure of a meeting with General Secretary Ramdin on 28 May in Washington. He conveyed the importance Germany attaches to the OAS and the whole region. We need the OAS as a strong voice for constructive cooperation and peaceful resolution of conflicts in the region, especially at a time when multilateralism is under pressure. As an observer state, Germany has a long-standing track record of supporting the OAS in areas including election observation, the Colombian peace process, and the promotion of human rights. Mr. Chair, the deteriorating security situation in Haiti poses a grave threat to the civilian population and undermines all efforts towards stabilization and development. In this context, Germany strongly supports the multinational security support mission led by Kenya and has contributed approximately $10 million for its deployment. We also have contributed to OAS initiatives in institutional strengthening in Haiti. Germany's combined project support to the OAS totaled more than $12 million between 2022 and 2024, making us the largest individual contributor among the permanent observer states. We also give indirectly through the European Union, which provided more than $15 million during that same time period. Of particular note are Germany's financial and personnel contributions to the OAS mission to support the peace process in Colombia. The OAS mission serves as a vital instrument in Colombia's pursuit of peace, offering monitoring, support for victims, and facilitation of inclusive dialogue, all of which are essential for building a resilient and inclusive society. Of course, resilient and inclusive societies require resilient and inclusive economies, rightfully the topic of this year's General Assembly. that is key to ensuring prosperity, peace, and sustainability in the region. Indeed, current trade tensions call for ambitious and especially open trade policy. We must uphold and strengthen the rules-based trading system and boldly pursue free trade both bilaterally and multilaterally, in particular finalizing the strategically important EU-Mercosur partnership agreement this summer. Beyond free trade, Germany has long been committed to fostering resilient and inclusive economies in the Americas through various strategic partnerships and policy initiatives. Since 1980, Germany's Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development has maintained a strategic alliance with the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC. This partnership aims to promote sustainable development by addressing social, economic, and environmental disparities, and by supporting regional integration. Key collaborative projects have included initiatives on circular economy, strengthening women in the care economy, and sustainable mining practices in the Andean region. We are proud of our comprehensive approach to promoting resilient and inclusive economies in Latin America and the Caribbean, aligning with global development goals and fostering equitable partnerships. And we look forward to continuing our cooperation with the OAS. We are eager to make progress on our joint priorities and demonstrate that multilateralism, free trade, and a rules-based order can deliver for all our citizens. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Excellencies. Our next block of speakers will be in the following order. Her Excellency Kathleen O'Neill, Deputy Director of the Americas and Small Island Developing States of the United Kingdom. His Excellency Cor Herbach, Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and His Excellency Youssef Amrani, Ambassador and Permanent Observer of the Kingdom of Morocco.
Thank you, Secretary General, Foreign Minister, heads of delegation, colleagues and friends. It's a pleasure to be here representing the UK as a permanent observer, a role which we are honoured to hold. At a time of evolving regional and global challenges, the OAS remains a vital place for fostering dialogue and unity on the continent. Building on our historic links with countries around the Caribbean, and 200 years on from our first established relations with Latin America's republics, we want to further ambitious partnerships for the future based on shared climate ambitions, mutual growth and sustained development. But all this must be underpinned by collective security and stability. Conflict has wide-reaching implications for us all, wherever it occurs. We welcome the announcement of a US-brokered ceasefire in the Middle East and urge all sides to respect it. We, along with allies, agree that we ultimately need diplomacy to achieve a durable solution to the Iranian nuclear threat. We condemn Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, which has had global repercussions. Russia's actions pose a serious threat to the international rules-based order that underpins our collective prosperity and security, and it undermines the core values we all hold in common, values which this region and the OAS has long promoted and defended. Security notwithstanding, biodiversity and climate change are the biggest global issues we face today. This year has been critical in strengthening our partnership in this area, and this region is leading the charge, hosting the Biodiversity COP in Cali and with Brazil's upcoming COP30 presidency. In Cali, we announced a further £45 million for the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund to support biodiversity projects in Latin America and across the world. The UK Caribbean Infrastructure Fund is another tangible demonstration of our commitment to sustainable development. The UK CIF is providing £350 million to build high-quality and climate-resilient infrastructure, which will help boost economic growth, reduce poverty, and provide benefits for marginalised and disadvantaged groups. Trade and investment are crucial if we are to address the climate challenge effectively. More than half of the global economy, $58 trillion, is moderately or highly dependent on nature. But mutual economic growth cannot and will not come at the expense of our shared ambition to preserve the natural world. Strengthening cooperation between the UK and nations of Latin America and the Caribbean will be essential in achieving our shared goals, both in advancing energy transition and in securing long-term economic stability. We welcome the OAS's commitment to uphold human rights and defend fundamental freedoms, particularly where those rights are under grave threat, including in Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Haiti. I'm pleased the UK was able to make a statement in August 2024 at the OAS special session of the Permanent Council to highlight our concerns around the discredited Venezuelan regime. And we continue to call for the release of political prisoners and the full restoration of citizens' democratic rights in Nicaragua. The UK, like others, is deeply concerned by the deteriorating security and humanitarian situation in Haiti, and we are working with regional partners to find ways to combat the gangs that spread daily suffering to the people of Haiti. The international community must support the Haitian authorities to restore democratic governance. I will finish by expressing my thanks to the government of Antigua and Barbuda for their exemplary hosting of this meeting and extending our best wishes to you, Secretary General, in the fulfillment of your new mandate. The UK looks forward to continuing its work with the OAS and its members and to tackling the shared challenges we face together. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Honourable Chet Green, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Antigua and Barbuda, Your Excellency, Secretary General of the OAS, Albert Ramdien, distinguished colleagues. On behalf of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, I would like to extend our gratitude for the opportunity to engage in this dialogue. The exchange between OAS member states and permanent observers like our Kingdom is vital for fostering stronger and deeper cooperation. Let me first congratulate you, Secretary General, on your election. As we say in our shared language, gefeliciteerd. I wish you a successful tenure in these challenging times. I would also like to thank Minister Green for hosting this year's General Assembly, showing once again the capacity of your country to host large multilateral events as you did a year ago for the SIDS4 conference. As a permanent observer, the Kingdom of the Netherlands is not only a long-time friend and ally of the OAS, but also an integral part of the Americas because of the 6 Caribbean islands that are part of our kingdom. This year's General Assembly convenes while the international community faces intensifying conflict and deepening insecurity. Conflict in the Middle East and elsewhere around the globe continue to cause immense human suffering and economic volatility and have direct and indirect implications all over the world. Resilience and inclusion are not just aspirational ideals. They are social and economic necessities. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed several vulnerabilities, but it also reminded us of our interconnectedness and the power of cooperation. Across the hemisphere, no country can succeed in isolation. International cooperation is our foundation, especially as we face a myriad of transnational challenges. These require shared responses and sustained commitment. Trade is a key driver of prosperity, but only when it's grounded in transparency, fairness, and predictability. For large and small economies alike, uncertainty in trade policy discourages investment, disrupts markets, and undermines trust. As neighbors, the Kingdom of the Netherlands remains deeply concerned about the political and humanitarian situation in Venezuela, affecting many countries in the region, including Aruba and Curacao. We urge all members of the OAS to work together in supporting restoration of democracy and the rule of law in Venezuela. The multidimensional impacts of climate change are particularly devastating for the most vulnerable in society and is hindering sustainable development worldwide. The Caribbean region, including the Caribbean parts of the Kingdom, faces significant challenges due to their geographical location. As the Kingdom of the Netherlands, we promote multilateral cooperation on climate finance, sustainable development, and disaster management. Transnational organized crime and corruption pose serious threats to our societies on both sides of the Atlantic. Given the international nature of these challenges, stronger cooperation is essential. Our efforts focus on 4 priorities: upstream and downstream disruption, strengthening the resilience of logistical hubs, and tackling illicit financial flows. To this end, we seek to deepen our collaboration with you. Instruments such as the Treaty of San Jose provide a valuable framework for a regional approach to counter narcotics operations in the Caribbean. The Kingdom is committed to encouraging more countries to sign and ratify this important treaty. Addressing these challenges requires investing in our people and building democratic, resilient societies through collaboration and innovation. As an active observer and good neighbour, the Kingdom of the Netherlands remains a committed partner. This is why we have supported the electoral observations missions of the OAS, the work of the IACHR, and the diplomatic training for senior diplomats from Latin America at the Klingendahl Institute in The Hague for almost a decade now. Our commitment to these principles is unwavering, and we will continue to work alongside our partners to achieve our shared goals. The Kingdom of the Netherlands stands ready to contribute, building an Americas that is resilient in adversity, inclusive in opportunity, and steadfast in its commitment to democratic values. Thank you.
For giving me the floor. It is a true honor to represent Morocco here today. I'd like to begin by thanking the government of Antigua and Barbuda for its warm welcome and the Organization of American States for its continued efforts to advance peace, democracy, and economic development across the Americas. I would like also to congratulate our new Secretary General, Mr. Ramdin, and wish him all the success and in his endeavor. As an observer country, Morocco values its growing partnership with OAS. We strongly believe in the importance of building bridges between Africa and the Americas and the Caribbean, and today's team, your team, building resilient, inclusive economies reflects a global priority that we fully share with you. Let me today share with you or emphasize three key messages. One, my country believes that the power of South-South cooperation is important, and we see Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean as natural partners. We share common challenges and, more importantly, common solutions. And together, within the framework of the OAS, we can build new heights of cooperation, new tools and mechanisms that serve our people and development of our ambitions. Second, the Atlantic must become a space of shared prosperity. Morocco is committed to revitalize Atlantic cooperation, not just as a geographic link, but as a platform for peace, stability, and inclusive growth. We believe in a renewed Atlantic vision, one that brings together countries of the South and the North to shape a more balanced and connected future. Third, human development is at the heart of everything we do. And I heard today that everybody has insisted on economic development and the priority that should be given to education, youth inclusion, climate change, and social cohesion. We are convinced that economic progress only matters when it uplifts communities, protects dignity, and strengthens the bonds between people and nation. We share this belief with OAS as partner institution, and we are fully committed to bring our modest contribution to efforts that will pave the way for our countries to enforce their links and connect our people. I would like to conclude by saying that development cannot be decreed. It is achieved through the adoption of ambitious policies, investment in human capital, and sound economic governance. Therefore, our joint effort must be made at the national, regional, and global levels to bridge the gap in development financing and contributing to building the emerging Africa we all yearn for. Thank you very much.
I thank your excellencies.
Amen.
Our final block of presenters from our permanent observers are Her Excellency Elita Kuzma, Ambassador and Permanent Rep, Observer of Latvia, Her Excellency Petra Sneber, Ambassador and Permanent Observer of Austria, and His Excellency Ambassador Kaza Ibrahim from the Observer Delegation of Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, distinguished member states, and permanent observers. It is a great honor for me to address you today. This marks my first opportunity to attend the General Assembly of the Organization of American States in my capacity as a permanent observer. And it is also noteworthy that this is the first General Assembly presided over by His Excellency Albert Ramdin as Secretary General. Latvia extends its warmest congratulations to the Secretary General, and we look forward to close cooperation in advancing our shared values and priorities. Allow me also to express my sincere appreciation to His Excellency Minister Everly Palchet-Green and His Excellency Ambassador Ronald Sanders for graciously hosting the General Assembly in your beautiful and welcoming country. Ladies and gentlemen, Latvia's history has shaped a firm belief that a smaller country, our economy, welfare, and security are best safeguarded through strong multilateralism and rules-based international order. Therefore, we see this year's theme, Building Resilient, Inclusive Economies in the Americas, of utmost importance. Latvia reaffirms its strong commitment to deepening economic cooperation with the countries of Latin America and Caribbean countries. We are pleased to see that Northern Europe, including Latvia, is becoming increasingly attractive to Latin American travelers thanks to its unique nature, architecture, culture. But our industrial heritage in the STEM sectors is a base for the potential for expanding economic cooperation in sectors such as machinery, electrical equipment, information and communications technology, chemical industry, pharmaceuticals, wood industry, food industry, and education. Latvia is also open to share its knowledge and experience. Last year, in partnership with the OAS, we successfully organized an inspiring event featuring Riga Tech Girls, an initiative dedicated to empowering women in the information technology sector. Closing scientific, technological, and innovation gaps remains a critical task. We are honored to support these efforts across the Americas to build more inclusive and innovative economies. I would also like to note that earlier this month, Latvia was elected to the United Nations Security Council for the first time in its history for the term 2026-2027. Allow me to express our sincere gratitude for your support to Latvia's election. During our term in the UN Security Council, we will stand firm for the international rules-based order, especially now when Russia's imperialist objectives and ambitions violate the United Nations Charter and pose the threat to global security. Our aim is also to promote gender equality and empowerment of women and foster solutions in this nexus of security, sustainability, technology, and development. We stand ready to contribute to global efforts on digital security, including cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, media literacy, and information integrity. We have already enjoyed fruitful cooperation at the UN level with Latin American and Caribbean countries by co-hosting a signed event with the Dominican Republic on strengthening national cybersecurity and incident response capabilities, and co-initiated a UN General Assembly resolution on media and information literacy with Jamaica. We look forward to close cooperation with Panama and Colombia as fellow incoming non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. Let's work together to build bridges across the regions and strengthen our partnerships. Thank you.
Excellencies, dear colleagues, it is both a pleasure and an honor to take the floor on behalf of the Republic of Austria, a proud observer state of the Organization of American States, on this very timely and important topic of building resilient economies in the Americas. A great thank you to the government of Antigua and Barbuda for hosting this session. It's really fantastic to be here. Austria also congratulates His Excellency Albert Ramdin on his election as OAS Secretary General. We look really very much forward to working with you in the coming years. Ladies and gentlemen, the last few years have seen an unprecedented series of external shocks to all our countries, economies, and societies. Conflicts continue to cause tremendous human suffering. Illegal drug production, trafficking, and consumption are causing thousands of unnecessary deaths every year, also on the American continents. The global economic and financial situation is putting stress on people in all our countries, as did the COVID crisis, with rising food and energy prices struggling to maintain hard-won gains on the way to achieve the SDGs. Above all, climate change does not only endanger our way of living, but the very existence of humankind. Migratory movements, which we see today, may look minuscule if in future of millions of people will be driven out of their home countries, which have become uninhabitable due to record-breaking high temperatures, rising sea levels, natural disasters, flooding, and other weather phenomena. This affects us all. Let me echo the words of His Excellency Terence Michael Drew, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. He said, when waters rise in the south, even the north will eventually drown. When forests burn in the north, the south too will choke from the smoke. Let me assure you, Austria heard this call. A transformation of the economic model to a carbon-free future is therefore both an indisputable necessity and a gigantic task for all of us, which we can only cope with jointly. Austria is a reliable partner in this endeavor. Austria is a strong supporter of the Paris Agreement and the goal to limit global warming to not more than 1.5%. We continue to strive for climate neutrality by 2040, a goal we are actively pursuing through national and international measures. At the time, Austria's private sector plays a vital role in advancing the green transition. Despite our country's size, many Austrian companies often serve as hidden champions in fields such as hydropower, heat pump technology, and other clean energy solutions. Let us join forces to bring together the brightest minds from business, science, and policy to shape for resilient and inclusive economies fit for the future. Austria has contributed continuously to international climate financing. We have more than doubled our contributions since 2020 and reduced our emissions by 16% since 2019. Austria is also a long-standing contributor to the UN's Central Emergency Response Fund. It is often the already most vulnerable that are hit the hardest by extreme weather and climate-related events. As a medium-sized state, we see it as our responsibility to stand up for other small states and make sure their voices, your voices, are heard. We have been partnering with small island development states which suffer most while having contributed least to climate change. Austria recognizes that climate change is not merely an environmental issue, it is also a growing threat to peace and security. This is why we are proud to co-chair the UN Climate Security Mechanism, which works towards better understanding and addressing the risks that climate change poses to the stability and conflict prevention. We also believe that the nexus between climate change and security must be an important element of the work of the UN Security Council. Austria presented its candidacy for a non-permanent seat in the Security Council for the period 2027-2028, already 14 years ago. Besides our track record in key areas such as rule of law, human rights, protection of vulnerable groups in armed conflicts, peacekeeping or disarmament, and non-proliferation, we pledge to ensure an increasing awareness of the Council and readiness to act upon this nexus if elected in June next year. We would be a reliable partner for you in this endeavor. We therefore very much hope for your support. Ladies and gentlemen, let me assure you that multilateralism is in Austria's DNA. As a small country in the heart of Europe, we recognize that looking beyond our borders and building strong partnerships is essential for peace, as well as the welfare of our citizens and the future of our planet. We look forward to join forces with you in order to achieve our common goals. Thank you very much.
Foreign Minister Chet Green of Antigua and Barbuda, Secretary General Ramdin, who just left. But anyways, congratulations on his election. I wish him all the best and success. Minister, thank you so much for your hospitality. At the I would like to mention that this General Assembly's topic resonates deeply with the challenges we all face today. It reflects our shared goals, prosperity, stability, and fairness. Although Azerbaijan is geographically distant from the Americas, and very much, we're united by common values, and we try to lead by example. In just over 3 decades of independence, Azerbaijan has achieved remarkable progress. Emerging from a post-Soviet economy, we have transformed into dynamic and actively pursuing economic diversification. Once economically vulnerable and reliant on international assistance, today Azerbaijan is a proud donor nation. Also, absent Secretary General and many colleagues here mentioned priorities for the cooperation between OAS member states and permanent observers, and climate change was mentioned as a priority. I can proudly say that Azerbaijan, as a COP29 president, and its leadership of COP29 marks a milestone in global climate diplomacy. Azerbaijan has worked hard to galvanize support for climate finance and ensure the voices of the most vulnerable nations, many of them represented here, are heard. We place a strong emphasis on the existential threats faced by SEEDS countries, ensuring their voices were amplified and their specific challenges were brought to the forefront. A key success of COP29 was the agreement on the new collective quantified goal on climate finance, and it was remarkable. At least $300 billion annually by 2035 are devoted for developing countries. It's a major step from the previous targets. Another major breakthrough was the full operationalization of the Loss and Damage Fund. This long-awaited mechanism will enable countries, including SEEDS and other vulnerable nations in the Americas, to access crucial funding to address climate-related impacts. Dear friends, true resilience goes beyond economic indicators. It's ultimately about people. That's why my country, as I mentioned, today is a donor nation. Our aid agency, AIDA, provides assistance to more than 140 countries, including many sitting here. Our ADA University hosts dozens of students from OAS countries, including countries of this region, with full scholarship from my government. Dear friends, we fully support the vision of resilient and inclusive economies, and we're ready to engage more closely with OAS and OAS member countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellencies. I place on record an appreciation for the remarks of the permanent observers, and now move this meeting forward to the presentations by member states or delegations of member states. We now have a total of 16 member states listed to make contributions. If my math is correct, it will take us all of 64 minutes. I remind us of the opening ceremony, which takes place at 6:30. And I do so if only to remind us or to encourage us to act with some regard for that very auspicious moment and to exercise efficiency with our time. Of the 16 countries, I will make announcements in blocks of 4, again, seeking ways to advance the management of this meeting. And so we'll start with blocks of 4 with Uruguay, Brazil, Peru, and Canada. Those 4 will go without any further announcements. Uruguay, Brazil, Peru, and Canada. Uruguay, the floor is yours.
Señor Ministro.
Mr. Foreign Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, and through you, we express our deep thanks to the country that has hosted us here and for the great kindness shown to all delegations, distinguished friends of member delegations. My delegation would like to begin by thanking the convocation for this discussion and for the opportunity to have fluid exchange between member states and permanent observers, acknowledging that our hemisphere faces challenges that require cooperation and dialogue beyond our borders. It has been truly enriching to hear this afternoon of the views and the visions of the members of the permanent observers. Thank you to you and for your interventions. They have been very useful and fruitful. Uruguay considers that the OAS must play a more open and vigorous role respecting the mandates and increasing the participation of permanent observers. Within this framework, we recognize the important contribution of permanent observers to the initiatives of the OAS, as well as their support for causes begun by members of the organization. This is particularly relevant given the current trends in official assistance programs for development show that regrettably, despite the multiple challenges for development that we face, it continues to be a region with the lowest level of international aid development, given the indicators that do not often consider the differences in the internal differences of our countries. Finally, Mr. Chairman, and in respect of the time accorded to us, we express the appreciation for the efforts of the Secretary General to diversify the funding sources for the organization. And we support promotion of a new institutional framework that would face current challenges, able to support greater transparency and accountability. Thank you.
Senhor Presidente, senhor...
Mr. Chairman, heads of delegations and members of the permanent observers to the OAS, Brazil believes that integration and international development will allow for the voices that are least heard will be more present in the world. For that, we underscore the importance of the representatives of permanent observers. Our region and our organization are enriched by the contribution of permanent observers, and our partnership must be further deepened in keeping with our mutual interests, multilateralism, and international cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, democracy faces significant challenges in recent years. The threats from the radicalization and political violence, false information, fake news, the hate speech have shown to us how nefarious these policies and politics can be for the development of our countries. We are also concerned at the continuity of wars and new wars, and to see how resources have been used to fight against multilateralism and a spirit of dialogue. In a number of regions, we see threats to democracy and legitimate governments and covert interests with efforts to undermine development. In this context, we count on the participation of permanent observers in this organization to join our efforts so that the efforts of the OAS to multilateralism and defense of democracy will be fruitful. We hope that this dialogue will also reach other international fora. Mr. Chairman, Brazil firmly believes in the achievements in the 4 pillars of this organization must contribute to the promotion of human rights and our democracies, and we are in every way willing to contribute to this efforts with our permanent observer colleagues. In the defense of the inter-American human rights system, with the Commission and the Court of Human Rights, which have a solid legacy of access to justice and have contributed to protecting human rights in our region and have also inspired the development of similar efforts throughout the world. This is an important contribution to technical support for human rights that avoids any instrumentation, any politicization of these efforts. We firmly believe that the OAS may support concretely economic and inclusive development for the benefit of all citizens. Brazil, a traditional partner in cooperation with the OAS, supports technical cooperation in support of development. And in this sense, we salute the efforts of permanent observer missions for development of the least developed in our hemisphere. In addition, let me refer to the situation facing a country in our region that requires support from the international community, Haiti. The OAS and member states have sought to engage with Haiti in response to its request for help to face the crises in that country. And permanent observers here present may contribute in valuable ways to overcome the crisis in Haiti through humanitarian assistance or political dialogue. We cannot treat the situation in Haiti as a trivial matter. We cannot accept that a neighboring country faces these difficulties alone. We must act always in an effort to protect the decisions of the Security Council and to contribute that all of this will be for the benefit of the Haitian people. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your Excellencies, ministers, foreign ministers, heads of delegation of the region, of the member states, as well as of permanent observer missions. Mr. Assistant Secretary General, on behalf of the government of Peru, let me express my sincere thanks to the permanent observer countries and states for their cooperation in the efforts of the OAS. Your commitment has concretely supported the implementation of programs that are directly of benefit to the most vulnerable populations in our hemisphere, strengthening human rights, multidimensional security, and integral development. The support of inclusive and resilient economies in the Americas, the theme of this country, places at the center of our regional agenda the urgent need to promote development for all, leaving no one behind. Economic cooperation after the effects of the pandemic, food insecurity, forced migration, and the technological challenges of our age require response in solidarity and focused on the benefit to all of our people. Peru reiterates its support on sustainable development agenda. We recognize the valuable contribution of permanent observer states and initiatives, particularly that will promote technology innovation, productive capacity, sustainability in environmental efforts, and social cohesion. As a country that promoted the adoption of the Inter-American Charter, we reiterate that democracy is a shared value in our region and must go hand in hand with public policies that respond to the real needs of our societies. There will not be resilience without solid institutions, nor inclusive economic development without a citizenry that is empowered. So this dialogue is of strategic importance. These are opportunities to strengthen and create synergies of the efforts of our member states. The permanent observers, international organizations, civil society, and private initiative must work together for a fairer and more prosperous Americas. Peru renews its commitment with the principles and the purposes of the charter of this organization and reaffirms its willingness to continue working closely with permanent observers that will improve the quality of life for our peoples, with particular attention to those living in the most vulnerable conditions. We congratulate once again the people and government of Antigua and Barbuda for their warm welcome and leadership, and trust that the efforts of this General Assembly will help us consolidate a shared vision and the future of the Americas. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The theme of the General Assembly, growing resilient and inclusive economies in the Americas, could not be more opportune. Our region continues to be faced by a series of challenges that are ever more complex, including the repercussions of economic challenges, climate change, a continuous concern for security, democratic backsliding, migration, irregular migration, and greater social and economic inequalities. These challenges require institutions and economies that will be resilient.
Between member states and permanent observers plays an essential role in facing these complex issues. Canada deeply values and appreciates the participation and contribution of permanent observers to this organization. They bring in valuable perspectives, expertise, resources, and partnership to work with the OAS and its members. Whether through development cooperation, advancing regional security, or supporting human rights and democracy, their engagements strengthen our collective capacity to respond to the challenges of our time. Canada deeply appreciates permanent observers' support for strengthening democracy, including electoral observation missions and technical cooperation, which are at the heart of ensuring strong and independent regional democratic institutions. We are particularly grateful for our recent collaborations this year with the observer missions of France and Spain, with whom we have worked in advancing issues of common interest, including human rights, gender equality, the rights of the LGBTQ+ persons, democratic strengthening, and hemispheric security. Canada also condemns the illegal and unprovoked violations of sovereignty and territorial integrity by the Russian Federation of Ukraine, an observer mission to this organization. In today's climate, marked by growing resistance to and attempts to roll back hard-won rights, democratic backsliding, and the rise of hate speech, including anti-Semitism, the spread of disinformation, and many challenges, it is more crucial than ever that we join forces and pool resources to overcome. As part of the international community, the OAS has both a responsibility and an opportunity to play a global leadership role in upholding human rights and fostering inclusion. Also, as we address the urgent needs such as we see in Haiti, or in the response and recovery of natural disasters, or in building longer-term capacity for governance, climate resilience, and economic inclusion, the engagement of permanent observers enriches our collective work and increases its impact. Canada reaffirms its commitment to working with member states, permanent observers, and other partners to build a more peaceful, prosperous, secure, and democratic hemisphere. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The 4 members who spoke so far. The next batch of members will be Bahamas, St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominican Republic, and Haiti. Bahamas, St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominican Republic, and Haiti.
Good afternoon. Let me begin by thanking the people and government of Antigua and Barbuda for your warm hospitality. Chair, Honorable Minister Green, as a fellow Chet, I must say it's indeed an honor to share both the name in this momentous occasion with you. And sir, please be assured that I will certainly take credit for all of your great work and valuable contributions. Esteemed foreign ministers and heads of delegation, Permanent Observer Representative Secretary General Ramdin in his absence, and Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendez. And Ms. Vergara, through you, I would like to reiterate the pride of the Bahamian delegation in having Secretary General Ramdin preside over this General Assembly as the first Secretary General from this region, and also by thanking you and our distinguished hosts and Antigua and Barbuda for convening this forum to facilitate dialogue with permanent observers of the Organization of American States. I also wish to commend our permanent observers for your commitment to collaborate with the OAS and its member states, and for your alignment with the high principles and objectives outlined in the OAS Charter. As we enter into a period where development aid and finance seems to be increasingly constrained, our collaboration with you, with the permanent observers, on shared priorities will be ever more important. In considerations of the priorities of the OAS and opportunities for collaboration, the Bahamas acknowledges that the OAS is an important partner, given that it is one of the few multilateral institutions where there is, in relative terms, universal access to programming to all of its membership, irrespective of perceived development level, socioeconomic status, or need. The OAS also has a comparative advantage few institutions can match in terms of delivery of technical assistance, training, and capacity building, and with respect to its convening power for agenda setting and knowledge sharing. We particularly see tangible evidence of these virtues in the development and security work being undertaken at the OAS. Chair, noticeably, last year, the pillar of the OAS work that received the least amount of donor funding was development. That is, less than 1% of permanent observer funding went to development pillar last year. Yet it is the pillar of work that we believe has the most potential to transform the lives of citizens on the ground in member states, and certainly it is the area of greatest need for countries like mine, the Bahamas, and the region we hail. We see it as an urgent need for the OAS to scale up its support to member states on climate action, given the mandates agreed upon by our heads at the 9th Summit of Americas and the ensuing 4th Inter-American Ministerial on Sustainable Development that was convened in the Bahamas in 2023, and which produced the current Inter-American Climate Change Action Plan for 2023 to 2030. We therefore invite permanent observers to support the projects and programs being advanced, and I list them here. Provide training in climate-smart skills for OAS citizens, address issues related to sustainable oceans management and mitigating the sargassum issue in the region, strengthening national and regional capacity to mitigate risk from disasters through regional collaboratory, support efforts to advance uptake of renewable energy and integration of the circular economy concepts, and develop a hub for climate finance that will serve as a repository of information on climate finance opportunities and will support countries with developing bankable projects, particularly small countries that may have more limited installed capacity. We know that many of your countries are doing great work in these areas, and we invite you to consider partnering with the OAS in these efforts. The Bahamas is also pleased with the progress being made with the development of OAS language training and certification programming for citizens of the hemisphere, and we would encourage permanent observers that share the goal of promoting multilingualism to collaborate with us and to collaborate with the Department of Secretariat to help together move towards a more interconnected Americas and the world. And lastly, the Bahamas invites permanent observers to consider enhancing the support for the multinational security support mission in Haiti and OAS initiatives such as Secure Haiti and related projects and programs to support advancing development and the return to democratic normalcy in our sister nation of Haiti. Chair, in closing, the Bahamas looks forward with zeal to the fruits of enhanced collaboration with OAS permanent observers in the year ahead. Chair, I thank you and this forum for its kind attention.
Distinguished Chair, Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, Excellencies, Heads of Delegation, distinguished representatives of permanent observer states, on behalf of the government and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, I'd like to express sincere appreciation to Antigua and Barbuda for the quality of its accommodations and its warm welcome extended to all of us, and sincere appreciation as well for the continued partnership and engagement of the observer states. The enduring presence and support of the permanent observer states within the Organization of American States stands as a powerful testament to the spirit of solidarity, multilateralism, and global citizenship. Your contributions are not only welcomed, they are indispensable. They bolster the OAS's capacity to fulfill its noble mandate of strengthening democratic governance, upholding human rights, promoting inclusive development, and advancing multidimensional security throughout the Americas. We recall with particular gratitude the support provided by several observer states during the deployment of the OAS Electoral Observation Mission to St. Kitts and Nevis in our 2022 general elections. That support strengthened confidence in our democratic, in the foundation and principles of our democratic integrity, the transparency and accountability that we cherish as a sovereign nation. Equally, we commend the vital assistance offered by observer states in the collective struggle against the existential threat of climate change, an ever-present and intensifying challenge for small island developing states. Your continued investments in climate adaptation, disaster risk mitigation, and emergency response have tangibly and enduringly impacted on the safety, resilience, and well-being of our communities. We are particularly heartened by your increasing support for the advancement of green energy initiatives in our region. For St. Kitts and Nevis, transitioning to renewable energy is not merely an environmental imperative, it is a strategic enabler of sustainable development and economic transformation. It opens the door to innovation, energy security, job creation, and inclusive growth, and we welcome your partnership in scaling up this critical work. Furthermore, we are deeply appreciative of initiatives by observer partners aimed at building human capital through language and cultural training for our teachers, diplomats, and young professionals. These engagements help to bridge divides, expand opportunity, and nurture mutual understanding, each of which is fundamental to building a more cohesive and peaceful international community. Excellencies, we are all stewards of one world. Its future, as well as its present, is a shared responsibility. It therefore behooves us individually and collectively to act with conscience, compassion, and conviction. Let us consider to work together to make our hemisphere and indeed our world more just, more secure, and more prosperous for current and future generations. St. Kitts and Nevis reaffirms its unwavering commitment to the OAS family and to our invaluable partners from the community of permanent observer states. May our cooperation continue to flourish and bear fruit for the greater good of all of our peoples. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary General, Mr. Assistant Secretary General, heads of delegations, permanent observers. The Dominican Republic would like to highlight the fundamental role that observer countries play in this organization. Their cooperation is manifested in many ways: financial contributions for specific programs and projects, training, technical assistance, best practices, and also academic support. And they include the 4 pillars: democracy, human rights, development, and security. We value the ongoing dialogue with observer missions at the OAS, and we are especially pleased to see a 5.6% increase in contributions from observer missions, which are millions of dollars, and the 24% in contributions from external institutions in a global context that is characterized by a decrease in funds for development. This trend shows the trust in the OAS and also the effectiveness of its management, as well as the importance of its mandates. Our delegation is aware of the multiple challenges that our countries are facing, and the Dominican Republic will be welcoming the Summit of the Americas. And so we want to report that under the topic, building a sustainable and secure and shared hemisphere, we will have 4 main pillars: citizen security, food security, energy security, and water security. We will be addressing these at the summit. The permanent observers are allies, and they can provide contributions through their technical assistance to the efforts of the countries in our hemisphere to have long-lasting solutions in these areas. As we have expressed previously, the Summit of the Americas, the Summit of the Punta Cana, as we call it, should be a before and after in the ways that we address current challenges. We cannot allow transnational organized crime, poverty, insecurity, and climate change to limit the opportunities of our people. Fora like this one offered by the OAS, which allow for an ongoing rapprochement with partners from other regions, must continue, because through these we have strategic, political, and technical partnerships which are key to comply with the mandates of this organization and also to promote the principles and values that undergird the inter-American systems. And as other colleagues have pointed out, I want to tell the observer countries that the main challenge that international cooperation faces in this hemisphere is Haiti. If all of you proposed moving forward in a unified manner, we believe that the crisis in Haiti can be overcome more quickly than we have thought previously. Thank you. Mr. Minister Chet Green, Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General-elect, heads of delegations, permanent observers, ambassadors, excellencies, distinguished guests. The Haitian delegation would like to thank Antigua and Barbuda for its generous hospitality, as well as the OAS for the initiative to have this dialogue, which is strategic to consolidate relationships between member states and observer states. The positive dynamic we see in the Caribbean area shows the shared will to build a future based on cooperation, solidarity, and sustainable development. We support strengthening of cooperation with observer missions. Their support and expertise in development is important to have a better future based on solidarity, prosperity, and regional stability. And we also welcome their ongoing engagement to initiatives to bring about peace and strengthen democracy in our region. Technical and financial assistance help us support and undergird the American system. The relationship we have with observer nations allows us to promote human rights and to meet challenges like transnational organized crime and food insecurity. Haiti is in the front lines in the fight against this scourge. Indeed, as you all know, Haiti is facing multiple challenges which are exacerbated by the institutional fragility and insecurity in our country. In this context, the support of the international community, and especially permanent observer missions, is more crucial than ever. We welcome the the initiatives of solidarity that have been expressed by different partners and states. This is key so that we can find a path back to stability, security, and sustainable development. What encourages us is to see the observer missions that are continuing to support projects in Haiti. We want to get back on the path to sustainable development. We cannot do this alone. We must have trustworthy partners who show solidarity. The Republic of Haiti also wants to highlight the importance of strengthening training programs and those that support democratic governance. The support of observers is crucial to consolidate our institutions and to promote human development. Indeed, we would like to express once again our gratitude to permanent observers. You show that you believe in Haiti and the capacity of our country to be able to address pressing challenges. We reiterate our commitment to democracy and to promote human rights, and we renew our unflagging engagement to interregional and regional relations in our support to the OAS. We believe that it is an important forum to be able to resolve the increasing number of challenges that humanity faces. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the heads of delegations. The next block of member states will see delegations of St. Lucia, Ecuador, Chile, and Trinidad and Tobago. St. Lucia, Ecuador, Chile, and Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda for hosting this General Assembly and the warm hospitality extended to all. It is my honor to address this important dialogue, which reaffirms our shared commitment to multilateralism and cooperative engagement across the Americas and beyond. On behalf of the government and people of St. Lucia, I extend my sincere appreciation to the permanent observers whose presence and partnership have consistently strengthened the work of the OAS, particularly in the most vulnerable member states like St. Lucia. Permanent observers serve not merely as diplomatic counterparts, but as critical partners in development, peace, democracy, and human rights. Their contributions, whether financial, technical, or in kind, have facilitated life-changing programs across key thematic areas, including education, entrepreneurship, climate resilience, youth development, institutional capacity building, to name a few. For small island developing states like St. Lucia, these interventions are not merely beneficial, they are both critical and necessary. The OAS represents a uniquely strategic multilateral platform, not only for its member states, but also for its permanent observers. The value of the OAS to permanent observers lies in the opportunity that the organization provides to partner in advancing shared democratic development, human rights, and security goals across the Americas. Through their status, permanent observers gain access to regional dialogue, influence programming priorities, and contribute meaningfully to the hemispheric dialogue and agenda. From the perspective of the observers, the OAS offers a trusted channel to foster soft power diplomacy, expand the development cooperation portfolios, and deepen bilateral ties with member states. This reciprocal value reinforces the importance of establishing a more structured and predictable mechanism for ongoing financial contributions, thereby sustaining the mission and impact of the organization. Excellencies, as we look toward a more financially sustainable OAS, we must collectively ask, how do we ensure that this collaboration with permanent observers is enduring? To this end, St. Lucia proposes that the organization explore a more structured and predictable mechanism for financial contributions from permanent observers. Such a framework should encourage transparency, equity, predictability, and alignment with the OAS's strategic priorities, while continuing to allow observers to earmark support for specific thematic areas or regions of special concern. This approach would not only provide budgetary predictability, but also ensure that the OAS can continue to respond nimbly and effectively to the evolving needs of its most vulnerable members. We remain confident that with your continued partnership, the OAS can rise to meet the region's most pressing challenges and opportunities. Together, let us build a stronger, more inclusive, and financially resilient OAS. I thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. The Foreign Affairs of Antigua and Barbuda, señoras y señores.
Ladies and gentlemen, foreign ministers, Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, representatives of permanent observers, ladies and gentlemen, the dialogue of heads of delegations of the member states with the Secretary General and Assistant Secretary General with the heads of observer missions began in 2004 in the context of the 34th General Assembly that took place in Quito, to promote a dialogue with these countries. This is a decision that has led to the creation of joint programs and projects, and this shows constructive cooperation which transcends our hemisphere. The results obtained have been incredible. However, given the challenges that multilateralism face, we need this kind of transcontinental cooperation. One of the important things was to give transparency to our organization, and in that way, to lay the foundation for greater commitments with partners from other continents. And so we've been able to move forward with consolidating democracy, human rights, and multidimensional security. Indeed, the productive relationships with observer nations are very important for our 4 pillars. Also, the constructive attitude of these representatives of this group of friends has been very important to be able to address very delicate and sensitive issues. So I would like to reiterate that together we need a new approach to development. This is essential to strengthen relations between our nations and your nations around international development cooperation. We value all your contributions to the OAS, and we want to undertake a constructive discussion with you to have greater development and greater cooperation. Most of our countries need to move forward in, we need to measure economic development in a different way, not just according to GDP. Rather, we need to think about multiple dimensions of development, the different gaps that exist, and the different challenges we face, such as poverty, lack of infrastructure, insecurity, and the migratory phenomenon. And we believe this would allow us to have a fair distribution of resources to fight against illicit trafficking of all kinds, transnational organized crime. It is to have inclusive growth and to create resilience. As perhaps the most advanced region in the implementation of South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation, OAS is important in channeling official assistance to our nations. This organization could issue guidelines which could then be used in other regions so that we can have advancement in international cooperation and development, leading us to a new and renewed architecture that leaves no one behind and allowing us to advance towards the 2030 goals. We face a great deal of uncertainty because of the challenges, and so we want to strengthen our links with your countries, and we want to continue to do this so that we can have political convergence, because we think that this institution offers that opportunity. I'd like to highlight the importance of the observer missions. You should know that we appreciate what you have provided us. We value you. We know you want to contribute to the betterment of our nations and want to build bridges with our region. Thank you very much.
Gracias, presidente.
Thank you, Chair, esteemed observers. Thank you for your presentations, which reflect not only your commitment to our region, but also the importance of the OAS as an important forum to channel international cooperation. As was made clear in your interventions, the work done by the different observer missions helps to strengthen the daily work of the organization in all of its pillars. For this reason, and we have stated previously, we believe we need to wonder, how can we use these tools for cooperation in a more effective way? Chair, we believe that this is critical to think about in times of polarization, the time we are living in. And we need to be clear that in Chile, when we think and talk about cooperation, we're not just talking about financial contributions, rather opportunities in which we can address common challenges with a horizontal and integral approach, which we are doing in Cartagena plus 40, that we are leading up. We believe that challenges that we are facing in the Americas means it is urgent to think about how we can help each other mutually to move forward in the construction and consolidation of more equitable, inclusive, and fair societies. With this approach, we believe that cooperation can have a multiplying effect when we use it to build regional standards for our policies or to promote regional cooperation at a technical level in order to defend women's rights and gender equality. We appreciate the programs like prevention of violence based on gender, supported by France, strengthening of young women's political leadership, which is backed by Ireland, financial support of women promoted by Italy, technical assistance in public policies focused on gender promoted by the Kingdom of the Netherlands, different programs that Sweden supports, and a feminist foreign policy that has been supported very firmly by Spain. With respect to security, we recognize Italy's contribution to create cybersecurity training This has strengthened our network of 25 centers in different countries, and we have trained 500 professionals in cybersecurity and gender inclusion with respect to developing standards, the Inter-American System of Human Rights. Well, we appreciate the contributions of different permanent observers to the Inter-American Court. This changes people's lives because every dollar and euro that is invested means that there are people who can and now exercise their rights. Now, 3rd of July, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights will provide an advisory opinion that Colombia and Chile have asked for that has to do with human rights and the climate. And this has been possible thanks to international cooperation. There are many areas in which we still need to do a lot of work. Some that are cross-cutting of our 4 pillars. For example, fighting disinformation throughout the Americas. We believe that this is an area in which we must work together to obtain a multiplier effect which has specific impacts on development, human rights, security, and the quality of our democracies. Chair, we must say that there has been a great deal of cross-cutting support by the European Union of the 4 pillars of this organization. We also wanted to reiterate our recognition of the work of Kenya, among other observers, with respect to the grave crisis in Haiti. We thank them for their firm commitment to a priority situation in the hemisphere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, distinguished heads of delegation, distinguished Secretary General and Assistant Secretary General, esteemed heads of delegation of permanent observer countries, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the delegation of Trinidad and Tobago, I'd like to sincerely thank the government and the people of Antigua for their warm hospitality. It is my pleasure to participate in today's dialogue with the heads of delegation of permanent observer countries to the Organization of American States. Trinidad and Tobago enjoys a robust bilateral relations with many of you and greatly values your interests, not only in the work of the OAS, but also your collaboration in treating with the multifaceted challenges facing the countries of our hemisphere. It is on that premise Trinidad and Tobago joins the calls for deeper engagement, support, and assistance for Haiti. Institutionalizing this annual dialogue with permanent observers signals the importance that member states place on this partnership and the recognition of the strategic role of OAS permanent observers as hemispheric partners in the furtherance of the OAS's mission. This dialogue is even more timely and relevant given this year's theme, building resilient, inclusive economies in the Americas. Through the coalescing of support and deeper engagement of permanent observers, this aspirational goal can be achieved. You, the permanent observers, offer diverse perspectives, technical expertise, capacity building, strengthen collaboration, provide much needed financial support, create linkages to the international community, which, among other things, promote understanding and cooperation beyond the Americas. Your expertise and collaboration on critical global issues such as climate change, security, public health, governance, and ICTs, to name a few key areas, also require special mention. Trinidad and Tobago looks forward to increased engagement with permanent observer delegations in the advancement and promotion of triangular cooperation, which is essential for addressing vulnerabilities in building the resilience of small island developing states like ours. Further, the government of Trinidad and Tobago stands ready to collaborate with you, the permanent observers, in strengthening communities through investment at the national and hemispheric levels. Chair, Trinidad and Tobago reiterates its appreciation to the permanent observers of this organization for their enduring commitment to multilateralism. My delegation looks forward to another purposeful and productive dialogue with permanent observers. Chair, I thank you for this opportunity to address this forum. Thank you.
I thank the members. Our final block of member states. We'll see presentations from Honduras, Barbados, Jamaica, and Argentina. Final block, Honduras, Barbados, Jamaica, and Argentina. Presidente. Señor Secretario.
Mr. Secretary General and Assistant Secretary General, representatives of the permanent observer states, firstly, we wish to thank Antigua and Barbuda for having received us so well as to congratulate the Secretary General for his election and leadership in hosting this storied organization. The theme of this important meeting leads us to express thanks for the cooperation and support of permanent observer missions to the OAS. Today, more than ever, our region faces complex challenges that require us to act decisively, understanding the historic moment and the future of our region. My country, Honduras, has gone through an important transition to democracy, greater dignity for our population. In keeping with the principles of this organization, we step forward decidedly in strengthening our institutions and our democracy, respect for human rights, peace, and solidarity between our peoples. And above all, in the area of human rights, Honduras reasserts its role as a country that supports indigenous people and protects the right of protest and democratic governance. But we also support respect for human rights, social inclusion, and respect for migrants. And given the challenge and concern for what happens in other areas of the planet, we also support the self-determination of peoples as a key principle of international peace. And for that, we call on the countries to address the violations of human rights and call for a cessation of hostilities and a respect for the rights of people to live peacefully and in freedom. Thank you.
Honorable Chet Green, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Antigua and Barbuda, heads of delegation, Secretary General Ramdin in his absence, my dear friend, Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendez, permanent observers, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chairman, let me start by thanking you and the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda for the excellent arrangements for this meeting and the hospitality extended to the Barbados delegation. The Barbados delegation welcomes this opportunity to underscore its support, as well as to reiterate earlier contributions about the appreciation for the enduring partnerships and substantive collaboration with the permanent observers of the Organization of American States. The dedication of the permanent observers to the OAS is evident in their involvement across 71 member states, 87 programs, and over a span of 45 years. The 4 pillars of our organization are strengthened by the support and dedication of the permanent observers. And, Mr. Chairman, this afternoon, several permanent observers reaffirmed their support for the 4 pillars of our organization and shared further initiatives to assist our member states in addressing the climate crisis, achieving food security, energy security, and to help us realize our development goals and enhance the quality of life of our citizens in the hemisphere. And Barbados is one of the 14 Caribbean Community member states of the OAS, and a small and developing state is truly appreciative, since we know only too well that with greater collaboration and greater unity, meaningful and lasting resilience is achievable. Barbados is committed to multilateralism and is a firm and staunch advocate for reform of the international development and financial architecture, including finance, climate finance, as articulated through the Bridgetown Initiative. And it will be impossible for OAS member states to build resilience without reform in the global financial system. And for this reason, the 3rd iteration of the Bridgetown Initiative identifies the following priorities: scaling debt for development swaps through the establishment of a $1 billion guarantee pool, scaling local currency solutions to unlock domestic private capital, and addressing bottlenecks in post-disaster contingent financing to enhance recovery in vulnerable countries. Mr. Chairman, these are not radical ideas, but rather practical solutions to help vulnerable countries build resistance. There are synergies and opportunities that permanent observers can play in this regard, and dialogues of this nature can build bridges between the broader international community to foster greater cooperation. And, Mr. Chairman, it is only through an extended hemispheric approach to global problems that OAS member states will not only build resilience, but will also strengthen partnerships to help us address our priorities and achieve our shared objectives of strong democratic institutions, human and social development, security, equality, inclusion, and prosperity for all the citizens of the Americas. Mr. Chairman, I thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I thank the Secretariat and our host, the Government of Antigua and Barbuda, for facilitating this important exchange with the permanent observers to the OAS, several of whom are represented here today. Throughout the life of the organization, permanent observers have played a vital role in supporting the OAS's ability to deliver on its core mandates. The network of over 70 countries that have been granted permanent observer status represent one of the organization's most important assets and a key component of the success of our hemispheric ambitions. Your partnership has brought significant technical assistance, financial support, capacity building, and knowledge exchange to the countries of the Americas. We remain deeply appreciative of these efforts. As we confront shared challenges and seek to build resilient, inclusive economies, we must work strategically to strengthen the cooperation between member states and permanent observers, guided by mutual respect, shared interests, and an unyielding commitment to sustainable development. Among the areas that Jamaica wishes to see prioritized for collaboration are citizen security, where the Prime Minister of Jamaica has been calling for a global effort to combat gangs and transnational organized crime. The activities of these entities are a threat to citizen security, our economies, and our democracies. We have worked with permanent observer nations to make our responses to these threats comprehensive and sustainable. The results speak for themselves, with massive reductions in violent crimes and greater public safety in Jamaica. The other priorities are climate resilience and adaptation, where Jamaica urges our partners to continue supporting climate financing, technology transfer, and capacity building. For digital inclusion and innovation, where the digital divide threatens to widen inequality, we welcome partnerships that promote affordable access to broadband, promote digital skills development, and address cybersecurity and support the digitalization of public services. In public health cooperation, we look forward to joint initiatives to strengthen pandemic preparedness, mental health services, and the overall health infrastructure. In youth empowerment and education, where investing in human capital remains the most enduring path to inclusive growth, and support for education, skills training, and youth entrepreneurship is critical. And in food security and agriculture, where we welcome continued collaboration to strengthen food systems, enhance agricultural productivity, and promote climate-smart agriculture. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Jamaica remains firmly committed to multilateralism and to the values and principles enshrined in the Charter of the OAS. Partnerships like those fostered between the OAS and its permanent observers are indispensable. we encourage our permanent observer partners to continue engaging with member states in practical and innovative ways that support our shared priorities and advance our collective vision of peace, prosperity, and development across our hemisphere. Thank you.
Last, Señor Presidente.
Mr. Secretary General, wherever you are, and Assistant Secretary General, Argentina is pleased at the holding of this session while the world sees the reconfiguration of world power. This hemisphere, the hemisphere of the Americas, is a great reservoir of energy, mineral resources, energy, but also has a wonderful human resource that must be strengthened for our societies to be more successful, and that the dream of economic and social development becomes a reality. Argentina recognizes, Mr. Chair, the interest and the support of permanent observer states to support some projects that have been organized within the work of our organization. As we know, the 4 pillars, the defense of democracy, the protection of human rights, multidimensional security, and integral development, guide our organization. And for this organization to be more effective and relevant, truly, it is necessary for us to work and further all 4 pillars at the same time. And for this reason, all 4 of them must be funded and supported. Mr. Chair, there is great potential in the cooperation of member states and permanent observers. In democracy and human rights, it is key to work clearly and face those regimes that systematically violate the charter of this organization. The case of Venezuela is emblematic, where an illegitimate regime has disappeared persons of its own country as well as foreigners, that promotes illicit transnational actions and violates the Vienna Convention and the Caracas Convention. Argentina has sad examples of these actions carried out by the regime in Venezuela. We must clearly address this with a global network of cooperation to facilitate a return to democracy in Venezuela. Mr. Chair, strengthening the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights is important, and it is very positive that it be supported. We know that some of the observer delegations have done so, but it is necessary for the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights to work neutrally, independently, and in a well-funded way, independent of civil society, independent of member states, and independent also of those who would fund the work of the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights. Anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or other types of discrimination and persecution are also possible areas in which there can be cooperation between permanent observer members and member states. Finally, terrorism, which is not a fantasy or a theory. Argentina itself suffered 2 terroristic attacks, both in the Embassy of Israel as well as the Israeli-Argentinian Mutual Aid Association. And these are scourges that have affected the Republic of Argentina. When we speak of terrorism, at least in our continent, we know what this involves. And here again, there are important opportunities for cooperation, both in the area of addressing the threat of terrorism and regarding transnational criminal activity, a key area for cooperation. No country may face this scourge alone. Many times, the challenge of transnational criminal activity is very destabilizing to our democracies and our political order. the agenda is before us. It is clear and it is obvious that there are many opportunities for cooperation. You are here. Two are necessary to dance a tango, as we say in Argentina often, and we need for permanent members to understand that we are here and we need the redoubled commitment of permanent observer missions to dance with us. Thank you.
I appreciate and thank the participation and remarks of the various heads of delegation of the member states. Excellencies, a most useful and meaningful engagement now comes to an end. And I express a profound appreciation and gratitude to all participants for your truly constructive dialogue between permanent observers and member states. Today's exchange has cast a guiding light on issues essential to peace, stability, and development across our hemisphere and beyond. The challenges and opportunities laid before us reaffirm our shared duty to deepening and invigorating this partnership for common good. By anchoring our work in the charters of the United Nations and the Organization of American States, and by elevating the preservation of our planet and the bonds of peace among all nations, we declare that no obstacle is too great, and that every opportunity within our grasp can be transformed into lasting progress. I extend thanks to the Secretary General and the Assistant Secretary General, to the Department of External Institutional Relations for your leadership and dedication in nurturing this very vital dialogue. I also convey my appreciation to each delegate and delegation for your insightful contributions and steadfast support, which only serves to strengthen our collective resolve. With renewed inspiration and a unity of purpose, I now declare this meeting concluded.